Hey everyone, Corey here. Welcome to episode 259 of the Sports Ballers podcast. I needed to take some personal time last week, so we've got a lot to catch up on tonight. The college basketball season tipped off this week, the NBA has some sort of tournament going on, the Rangers won the World Series, and football is still happening. We'll catch up on our playoff eliminations and more on the other side of the music. Hit it! Hello and welcome to episode 259 of the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm your host for the evening, Corey Puffett, joined as always by Eric and Evan. Eric Meyer and Evan Nash, how you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Feeling pretty good.
I'm doing fine as well.
Thank you.
That's all I got. I don't really have any context to add to that. Just
Okay. Just going with the Larry David for no other reason than to go with the Larry David.
Larry David is a Maryland alum. Maryland basketball got kicked off last night. Your boy was in the house. We won't talk about the football game on Saturday because that's whatever. But
One of my journalism students asked to write about Maryland getting blown out by Penn State for the Stag Line. I was like, sure.
Go right ahead. Does that make you feel good?
How are you doing, Evan?
I'm doing fine. Still.
I was wondering if you had anything to add, since Eric didn't have anything to add and then added some things.
Well, you seem to be pressing me for more stuff. Other than
Yes.
just, I gave you more stuff.
Yes,
so,
you did. So now
so
I'm
be
pressing
happy.
Evan for more stuff.
Well, Georgia Tech needs to win one more game to be bowl eligible.
So
What does
Maryland,
bowl
and that's
eligibility
been a
even
month.
mean these days?
Well, we've won 3 games every year the past 4 years. So,
So progress.
yeah, twice as many wins.
If you get one
Maybe.
more. If you get one more.
Well, we got Clemson this week.
They're not that
They're
good.
gettable.
They're beatable.
They're
Yeah.
gettable.
They lost to Duke
but
by
are they going to lose to Georgia Tech?
I mean,
North Carolina's better than Clemson, and they lost to Georgia Tech. I know, because I was there.
North Carolina also lost to Virginia, who also lost to Georgia
We
Tech.
got blown out by Maryland.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there you
So, just anything can
Just
happen
the
any
circle
Saturday.
of life here.
go. Circle of mediocrity.
It's more of
is
the
like it. Yeah.
ACC circle of suck. We're still alive for the ACC championship game,
Only
only just, yeah, because tomorrow night Louisville is hosting aforementioned Virginia, and they're favored by 20. So,
Louisville's not that good either, though.
well, they beat Georgia Tech, which isn't saying a whole lot. Had we won that game, we would be win and in to go get waxed by Florida State down in Charlotte.
Let's talk some sports. I guess we are technically talking sports, but let's talk sports that are on our show notes, because none of that is. But let's just go ahead and start with, I guess, arguably the lead story of the past couple of weeks, the World Series. The Texas Rangers beat the Arizona Diamondbacks. I believe this is the Rangers' first World Series victory. They've been to the World Series
Twice. 2 back-to-back years. 2010, 2011, they lost.
Oh, they were
Lost-
both years?
They lost to the Giants in 5 games, and they lost to the Cardinals in 7 when they blew it.
Okay, I knew they were in 2011. I didn't realize they were in back-to-back years.
Yep.
They also appeared in 2 World Series as the Washington Senators way back in the day, but we won't count that.
Well, those were
No,
the
they
Twin
didn't.
Senators.
Were they?
Yeah.
Like the Rangers Senators, like the Senators became a team again in like 1961,
62.
62, and then they left in 71.
I can swear when I was looking back on like the Rangers Wikipedia page, I saw like a couple of World Series appearances as the Senators. So I don't know if maybe they like got those
Washington
years as
Senators
part of
in
their.
the 60s
I
were
know
dog water.
I know they became the Twins, but maybe they got like that history for some reason.
No,
don't see why they
the
would.
Senators were one of the original American League teams.
I mean, after all, the Ravens don't have the old Cleveland Browns history for some reason.
Because that would be stupid. They're not
Yeah.
the Browns. The Browns exist as
It's
a
the
team.
same franchise.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There was carryover with the players
Doesn't
and the
matter.
owner
It
and
doesn't-
everything.
that doesn't
Anyway,
matter.
Arizona
so yeah,
lost in 5
Okay,
games.
I was about to explain the Senators.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Senators were an original American League team in like 1903 or whatever. They won the World Series in 1924.
That happened, yeah.
I think Walter Johnson was on that team.
Yeah,
he was the team.
Oh, okay.
The train.
The big train.
The big train. Come on.
And then whoever was the Senators owner in the 60s was like, I want to move to Minnesota. And
Nobody would ever say that in
Yeah.
real life. So,
yeah, and DC was like, but we're building you this brand new stadium. He didn't care. He took the team to Minnesota anyway. And then in 62, baseball expanded and added a new Senators team, and they played at RFK for 9 years, and then they moved to Texas. And Ted Williams was their manager in Texas, looking all out of place with his big hat in Arlington there.
All right. Well, thank you for the history lesson.
Yes, the more you know.
The more you know. The Rangers won in 5 games. They did get absolutely demolished in Game 2 by a score of 9-1. But Arizona lost the other 4 games by a combined 25 runs to 13, including a 5-0 loss in the deciding Game 5. How much of this series did you guys watch? Because I can tell you, I did not see a single pitch of it.
I watched pretty much the whole thing. Like, when the games turned into blowouts, like the ones that really got out of hand, I usually turned it off. But, I kept up with it. Like, there were a couple of close games in there. And,
So what was your kind of takeaway from this series?
I mean, it's hard to really say that. Like, a lot of people were just begging for the opportunity to say that the Diamondbacks were frauds, right? Because they're 84-win team. They were the 6th seed in the NL, and everybody felt like they didn't really belong there. But the Rangers did this to everybody. They crushed the Orioles. They beat the Astros when they looked like they were toast. Like, the Astros won a walk-off, or not a walk-off game, but a game in the 9th inning on an Altuve home run in Game 5 to push it to a 3-2 lead. That should have been it, right? Like, the Astros looked like they were going to go right back to the World
Game
Series
6
again.
and 7 in Houston.
Yes, and just like in 2019, the Astros managed to lose all the home games in the series, and they won all the road games, just like they did against the Nats. And so the Rangers ended up going to the World Series, and they were clearly the better team on paper, but they were hot the whole postseason. They didn't flame out like the Phillies did against the Diamondbacks, where Philly looked like they were never going to lose ever.
Yeah.
And then the faucet turned off and they couldn't hit anymore. And the Diamondbacks went to the World Series instead. And then they played this Rangers team that had just been red hot. Corey Seager was mashing dingers all postseason, all regular season too.
Was he the series MVP?
He was, yeah.
Okay.
The second time he's won World Series MVP. He also won in 2020 with the Dodgers in the fake year that doesn't count.
In the same stadium.
Yes, except the fact that the Dodgers don't play in Arlington.
I mean, this
hence why it's the fake season.
yeah,
There's
the
cardboard
Orioles and the
cutouts in
Rangers
stands.
didn't play the first playoff game at the Rangers' new stadium somehow. It's crazy.
Yeah, nuts. But yeah, the Rangers were the better team, but the Diamondbacks had a great postseason run. They didn't feel like they really deserved to be in the playoffs in general because you won 84 games, but that's the nature of the beast now. When you let 6 teams per league in, there's going to be some mediocre-looking teams in the post, and sometimes they get hot and they win a couple of series, and suddenly they're in the pennant race, right? Like, they should be done in the wild card round, but they're not.
Okay. I mean, yeah, like as you said, that's what happens when you let more teams in. So, we'll go ahead and move on from the World Series. Congratulations again to the Texas Rangers. Let's talk a little bit of college basketball because that season just got started on both the men's and the women's sides on Monday. So Maryland's women's team was in action Monday night. They beat Harvard 98-75. Big blowout win for the number 14 Terps. We also saw number 20 Colorado stun number 1 LSU in Las Vegas in the Hall of Fame series.
Stun doesn't describe it.
They smoked them 92-78. Like, that's not a close loss.
Ass whooping.
Yeah.
Like, what else would you call it? LSU came in, preseason number 1 after coming off the championship, and then they added, Haley Van Lith to the team, who was a stud and also a controversial figure among women's college basketball players because she's a little bit of a firecracker. But she's great. And yet, for some reason, the Buffs took it to them. I don't really know what to make of it, but it happened. We all saw it. So counts, and I imagine
Coach Prime's daughter is on that team.
Oh, I
really?
did not realize that. So
How many kids does he have? They're all the same age, right?
he was in prime time at one point, I guess. So
My
there you
goodness.
go. Yeah.
He has 3 children who are college age. Is
He's
what
busy.
this is.
What can you say, man? Prime time.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so that was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, obviously Colorado's got a good team. It's not like they're bad, but to lose by 20 points when you're the defending champs in the preseason #1, a little bit of a surprise. There's been some chirping about, we remember from last April when they won the national championship and there was controversy around Angel Reese and her behavior, if you will. And so, of course, some people were coming after her because I don't really know how well she played individually, but I can't imagine anybody played well when you lose by 20 points. But, yeah, it's nice, though, because the women's game has kind of been shoved to the side. We've talked about this a little bit, where the men's game seems to get most of the attention. But, after last NCAA tournament, the ladies' game kind of really took center stage a little bit because of some of the, not just the good players, but the characters in the tournament, especially late in the tournament. And so there is a little bit more attention being paid to the women's side of the NCAA basketball season just because of that. And that's a good thing. I think it's nice to have more attention to more basketball. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. So Shalomi Sanders, I don't believe played in that game for Colorado, but she is on the team.
Okay.
In any case, big statement win for Colorado against LSU in that Hall of Fame series game. And then number 3 Iowa, who lost to LSU in the national championship last year, they destroyed Fairleigh Dickinson, not a noteworthy team, but it was 102-46. Caitlin Clark had 28 points, 7 assists and 10 rebounds in the game. So really good game for her in her first game back in action. The Lady Terps are back in action this weekend on Sunday. They play at number 6 South Carolina. And then their very next game after that, next Thursday, is at number 2 UConn. So playing back-to-back road games against iconic college basketball programs on the women's side. It's going to be a tough couple of matchups for the Lady Terps coming off of just one game to start the season. But that'll be interesting to see how they do in those games. Let's talk some men's college basketball. Eric, you were on hand for Maryland's season opener last night.
Yes.
Against Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Maryland won 68-53.
Yes, they did.
Thoughts on that game?
I mean, the team didn't look great. It was definitely a first game of the season type of vibe. Willard was using a lot of different lineups. 11 players played, and typically that's not what you expect to see in a game that you really have to buckle down and limit your rotation. Normally you expect maybe 8, maybe 9 at best. And yet 11 players played, got good minutes. There was a lot of different sets for a lot of different players. So it was definitely a feel-out game. The Terps understood that they didn't have to play nearly their best game to win, and they played probably a C- game at best, and they still won by 15 because they're playing Mount St. Mary's. Like, there's a reason you pay them to come play you so that you can beat their ass and move on. And, so I'm not really worried about what I saw individually or from the team that specific game. But, some of the players I was keeping my eye on, Jameer Young didn't have his best game. He wasn't really knocking down shots like he had last year, but I expect that to change a little bit. Some of the freshmen and transfers that Maryland had to, keep their eye on just because, new players, new numbers, having to figure out who's who. They looked okay. Right, like Deshaun Harris-Smith from Paul VI looked very, very good. He had a little bit of a lower leg injury. Not really sure what happened to him, but he went out of the game for 5 to 10 minutes or so, came back in, and continued to play, but didn't quite look the same. Looked like he was just a little hobbled and didn't quite have the same explosiveness. But it didn't seem like a serious injury. Probably just ice up and we'll see you on Friday type of thing. But before that point, he was decisively the best player on the court in his first game with a team that had a lot of experience on it with Jameer Young in his 5th year and Dante Scott in his 5th year. And so, that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Like, I don't want the best player on the team to be a freshman when we've got these other guys who are expected to carry the load. But at the same time, if he's going to step up and be good, go for it, man, because he's the future.
Yeah, I mean, like, were Scott and Young bad in the game, or was it just that he was that good that he was still better than them?
I would say that Scott was typical Dante Scott, right? Like he made the same mistakes that he has for the last 4 years, but he had some moments. He played some bad defense at times. He took some silly shots, but he didn't turn the ball over, which was something that was nice to see because that happens with him a lot. Jameer Young, I think he controlled the game well. He played the point guard position appropriately. He just wasn't hitting the same shots, right? Like he missed a bunch of open threes. He had some bunnies near the basket that didn't fall. He tried a couple of pull-up jumpers from inside 8 feet of the basket that last year was money for him, just didn't go in. That happens. Like it's just one of those games for him where he wasn't knocking down shots. I expect him to bounce back fine. The issues that you saw were foul trouble for the Terps. Julian Reese last year was a very, very good player for the Terps, especially late in the season. He really stepped up and made a big difference. But the big issue with him was he was constantly in foul trouble, and the big part of the reason was because he picked up a lot of cheap offensive fouls, right? Like that's where it kills you. You can tolerate the defensive fouls because you're playing defense, you're trying to make something happen, and sometimes you hack a guy.
Yeah.
But when you're giving away fouls on the offensive end because you made a silly mistake or you trucked somebody or something like that, those count just as much as a defensive foul. And
and you're giving up possession, and you're giving up an opportunity for points that could have been scored by either you or one of your teammates.
Yeah,
so
and just like those fouls,
it's a huge momentum shifter.
You only get 5 in college, so
it
really makes a difference, especially with the Terps, who still have a little bit of weakness in the front court in terms of their big man depth. I think like they've got some guys they can put in there, but I just don't think they're really that good. But as overall, the team's size has improved, right? Like, Deshaun Harris-Smith is a big kid, right? He's a guard, but he's 6'5", 215 as an 18-year-old. Like, that's a grown-ass man playing basketball for the Terps. And, so that helps a little bit. But, it's one game. You don't want to draw too many conclusions, especially for the guys that you haven't seen before. But, it was up and down, kind of what you expect. I'm not really worried about what to expect from Friday. Davidson's had some moments since, the only great player in their history left 15 years ago. But as far as I'm concerned, Steph Curry's not walking through that door. So, the Terps should be able to beat them. And if they don't, then they got to figure some stuff out.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Friday, Maryland is playing against Davidson. When I was looking at the schedule coming up, at first I saw, like, Davidson, but it didn't say at Davidson. I'm like, oh man, like this is Rashonda's alma mater. Like, maybe we could go on. I don't have school on Friday.
Yeah.
We could go to this game, and I'm looking at it. I see the little asterisk. I'm like, what does the asterisk mean? It's like, neutral game in Asheville. So that's not happening. But Maryland will play against Davidson on Friday in the Asheville tournament, and then depending on the outcome of the Clemson UAB game, they'll play the winner or loser of that matchup on Sunday, and then their next game after that will be a week from Friday against number 22 Villanova, and that's a road game. So, both men's and women's Terps teams are going to be playing against ranked opponents on the road over the next week. So, some big early season tilts for those teams. Former DeMatha player, DeMatha alum Hunter Dickinson, class of 20. Played in his first game in a new college uniform, playing for Kansas. He dropped 21 points in a blowout win against NC Central, including 3 made three-pointers. So good job by the big man. All of the top 7 teams were in action. All the preseason top 7 ranked teams, I should say, were in action on Monday. And all of them won except for number 4 Michigan State. They lost in overtime to James Madison, 79-76. I believe that this is the first. So this is the first time that a top 4 preseason team has lost a home opener against an unranked opponent since Kentucky in 2001.
I was wondering what kind of Kirchen stat we were about to get here, but that actually isn't really that big of a Kirchen stat.
No.
Like that's a pretty embarrassing loss. Like when you pay the opponent to come play you and you lose to them, that's a problem. And that's what happened here. So.
And apparently Tom Izzo's nephew, his sister's son, is an assistant coach for James Madison, which is the reason that this team was even on their schedule.
Right. Yeah, bad loss for Michigan State. They've already fallen off the Lenardi 1 line because we're doing that in November for some reason.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, they were a preseason number 1 seed prediction, which makes sense. They're number 4 team in the country. But yeah, they lose a bye game to JMU. That's not going to hold up for very long. Obviously, they have plenty of time to rectify it. It's one game, but that's a bit of a bruise on the resume. Like that's rough.
Yeah. Izzo after the game was openly inviting controversy from the press because he basically said, if my veteran players are going to play like that, I'll just play the freshmen.
I mean, he's got a point, right? Like they were so bad. They were 1 of 20 from 3. They bricked a ton of free throws. Like people say, well, they're not going to do that again. I'm like, well, how do you know, right? Like maybe they're just that bad at shooting, right? Obviously, you expect some marginal improvement, but when your first game you shoot 1 of 20, that might indicate that you're not a very good shooting team.
Yeah. So that's all we have on our list for college basketball. So let's talk a little bit of the professional game because I just want to know this week. I mean, Eric, you're going to be hosting next week, and I'm sure we'll get a more in-depth rundown of the first few weeks of NBA action. But I want to know, what the heck is an in-season tournament?
Well, that's funny because you didn't say heck in the notes.
No,
you used
but
a little different language there.
Yes.
That's a good question. You want to know why? Because I don't care. I don't care about this at all. Like, to me, they're just regular season games, and that's how they count, right? They go into the standings as wins and losses as part of your 82 games. But I guess there's some...
There money on the line or something? Like
yeah,
whoever
there's
wins
a
the tournament
trophy?
gets...
There's a trophy and a cash prize at the end of it.
You can
for
get
whoever
MVP
wins.
of this tournament.
The only extra game from this is the championship game, right? Like,
So there will be 2 teams that play an 83-game season?
yes, like the championship contenders will play an extra game. I don't know how that will count towards like statistics or anything like that.
Okay.
Like, will that be considered a regular season game, or will it be like the play-in where it just goes out into the ether? It doesn't count as playoffs or regular season. It's a weird situation.
Stats should count somewhere.
Yeah, they happened, right? They're part of the game. But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of weird. It's kind of gimmicky, of course, but I think this is supposed to be some type of...
I just don't understand the format because most of the time when you think of tournaments, you think of a bracket where like the winners continue on
Right.
through the tournament and the losers are eliminated.
Right.
How does that work when like both teams, whether they win or lose, are going to have to continue playing their regular season schedule?
Well, I think there's group play involved, which is hilarious.
There's group play.
Yes, like
Oh,
like
Lordy.
The World
Yes, like the World Cup.
How are there groups of 5?
It's six groups of 5.
Are they grouped by divisions? Is this the way that they make divisions relevant again?
They're not really grouped by
Make
divisions.
divisions great again.
Yes.
Like they're
What
divided
color
up-
the hat's going to be?
Like there are no Eastern Conference versus Western Conference teams in a group, but they're not quite division based because like the Warriors, for example, played the Thunder in their first group play game, and the Thunder are part of the Northwest Division, and the Warriors are part of the Pacific Division.
Okay.
The Thunder are neither north nor west. What?
But they used to
But they
play
used to be
in
Seattle.
Seattle, so they stuck there in the Northwest.
Somebody else needs to go in the
Dallas
northwest.
isn't in the East.
Yeah, like Sacramento or Golden State would make sense, but
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, Dallas isn't in the Eastern Conference in basketball. That's a football thing.
I'm talking
We're
football.
talking basketball here, man. Keep up.
I mean, the Braves were in the west for 30 years.
Like
so.
the funniest thing about this thing though is,
The Rangers are in the West.
well, there's actually 2 things about this that are funny. Number one, the fact that it doesn't actually have a name. It's just called the NBA In-Season Tournament. Like they didn't come up with some goofy name. They could
College football playoff sounds better than this.
Yeah.
Maybe whoever wins it, the MVP, it'll be named after them. It can be the Steph Curry in-season tournament.
Well, somebody actually predicted that the Celtics were going to win it, so
Oh,
I guess it would be
jeez.
like a Jason Tatum thing or something, or maybe Jaylen Brown if he can
That
figure out how to
sounds
dribble with his left hand.
insufferable.
Although he did successfully dunk on Rudy Gobert despite almost fumbling the ball with his left hand on that
But
play.
did he dunk on Wembanyama?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to do that. But like the second thing that was hilarious is they had a bunch of players like looking at like the schematics for the court layouts, like the color scheme.
We were watching the one in Denver, and first of all, we spent way too long trying to figure out what is S280.
528.
Yes,
yeah,
finally realized that it was a 5 and not an S.
Did you not watch any of the playoffs last year?
Apparently none of the
'Cause it's
Denver
been there the
games
whole
because
time,
I
yeah.
never noticed it.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like, what is up with this color scheme? Why is there just like a sliver of like light colored wood in the middle of the court, but everything else is just like dark blue or whatever it was?
Yeah, like, again, they had a
It was
little bit
so
of
ugly.
They had a montage of players looking at the scheme, and the first one was Kevin Durant, and he was the only honest guy in the bunch. Like, he took a look at what the Suns' court's gonna look like, and he looked at it and he said, "Wait, so we're gonna be playing on a purple court in the NBA? Like, this is an NBA basketball game. We're gonna be playing on a purple court? You can't be serious." And
I mean, didn't the Kings play on a purple court for a while?
no, they played with a purple paint. The court was still hardwood colored.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's plenty of weird color. Like, look at what they have in Charlotte.
what are you talking about?
Didn't Charlotte have like this like blue court or whatever like a year or two ago?
Maybe for a game, but like it looks ridiculous. It's an eyesore.
I hate these courts.
I'm not a fan of the courts. Like, people are obsessed with the fact that they put the trophy at mid-court or whatever because they want to bring back the days where they used to put the Larry O'Brien trophy on the court during the NBA Finals. And I actually thought that was stupid. Like, I didn't love...
I like that.
Like,
It felt special to me to see the little script finals.
The script finals is fine. You can do that.
They don't even do
but
that anymore, do they?
Then they added that back.
Oh,
They
okay.
brought that back because enough people said, hey, you should bring that back. And that was actually a good thing. But, like, this giant golden trophy...
In the middle of the floor?
Yeah. Like,
oh, no,
it's-
that's ridiculous.
And, like, the
I
big
thought it was
ball
just,
at
like,
the
on
end
the side.
was sticking out of the Celtics logo when they were playing the Lakers. It just looked ridiculous, but...
So I will say, so I'm looking at some of the courts. So
That's not
my-
even the worst one ever.
SB Nation has a list of the NBA in-season tournament courts ranked from worst to best.
They're all the worst.
And
They
under
all look
terrible, they start with the Pelicans, which is definitely
It's like red, isn't it?
gross. It's like purple with like green, like the middle strip is green.
Well, that doesn't make
It's
any
weird.
sense. That's not even their color
The
scheme.
Wizards is second to last. Theirs has like teal in the middle.
Well, the Wizards also got voted as the 30th out of 30 teams to watch on NBA League Pass.
Wow.
Yeah, because they're I was watching them play the Sixers the other day. It was unwatchable. Like, just Embiid was destroying them. And of course, you know, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant about the Wizards here, just to kind of weave some other
Sure.
there. I hate everything about this franchise right now. Like, not just
now.
not just
Okay.
no, like not just the players, but you know, not just the coach, because Wes Unseld Jr. sucks. He's awful.
I thought it was the GM. Who's the GM?
Well, Tommy Shepard was the GM. He got replaced.
With what?
Somebody else.
Oh,
I forgot
okay.
his name already. But yeah.
Sounds like he's doing a great job.
Oh, he
Real
just
noteworthy
he,
fella.
He just got there, so I can give him a break. But
That Pacers one is terrible. Like, out of all of these, I have to say, is their number 24, but it's the Dallas Mavericks. Like, that one I can actually live with.
that one's not bad.
That one I can
It
live
looks
with.
kind of like a basketball.
Yeah,
player.
exactly.
resembles the
exactly.
But
Anyway,
yeah,
continue your ranting
so
on the Wizards.
So obviously for the last 2 weeks and change, I've had to sit there and watch Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma.
No, you haven't. I haven't been watching.
Well, I have a
Oh.
little bit. And I watched Jordan Poole try a turnaround three where he shot the ball from the corner and then turned to face the crowd, look away like it was going to go in, like Steph Curry style, and he clanked it off the back iron. It wasn't even that close to going in. And I'm just like, this is pathetic. They were down by 20, and they were playing... You know, they're playing the Celtics or somebody. They're down by 20, and they're throwing alley-oops off the backboard, him and Kuzma together. And I'm just like, this is an unserious basketball team, which... I kind of expected because the team clearly is going into a rebuild. They traded Bradley Beal. They traded Kristaps Porzingis. But, like, I expected somebody to at least step in and say, hey, you can't act like a goofball all the time here. And that has not happened. And the thing that frustrates me is the announcing crew. I like Chris Miller. He's the play-by-play guy. I liked him when he was sort of the sideline reporter. But he kind of got promoted into the play-by-play guy after they got rid of Justin Kutcher, who sucked. And
Where did he come from?
who, Justin Kutcher?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
He's just some weenie, and he's gone.
Okay.
He didn't get no new job. He's just
He ain't got no job.
He's just out there. But they're like sitting there talking about Jordan Poole and saying like they're pumping him up, saying, "Wow, yeah, he's really taken up a leadership role with this Wizards team."
That's
mainly, like,
just not true.
yeah, well, maybe he has.
I don't even watch the games. I know that's not true.
And he insisted on posting up with his locker being right next to Bilal Koulibaly, who the Wizards drafted in the first round. He was Victor Wembanyama's teammate in France. I think he's going to be good, but Poole was like, they're puff piecing him, acting like, yeah, he's taking him under his wing. I'm like, I don't want this guy anywhere near Jordan Poole.
Where's Nick Young and JaVale McGee? Just bring them back.
Their names are Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. They're this generation's version of that. I'm like, Bilal Koulibaly's got potential, man. He was the 7th overall pick. I like him. I think he's going to be a good player. But Jordan Poole, this is the goofball that got kicked off his own team. They traded him away after he helped them win a championship because one of the team players on their team, one of the leaders on that team, got so pissed off at him that he knocked him out in practice. And it was just like, hey, let's just do that. This guy's cool. Let's have him run the show. Mm-hmm. How's that working out? Defense is garbage. The announcers, the post-game crew is terrible. Just all of it sucks. It's just an abomination. And, like my dad was looking at, like, they ranked, like, the local announcing crews for basketball, too. Oh. The Wizards are in, like, the bottom 3 right now. And you can go back historically on the archives when Steve Buckhans and Phil Chenier were calling the games. They were top 5.
Oh, yeah.
They were great.
They were great.
They were tremendous. And these guys are just, they're hacks. Like, they're bad.
I mean, that sounds like everybody who's collecting a check from the Wizards is a hack.
Like, can you imagine watching Nationals games when they were really, really bad, like the pre-Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg era, and listening to Bob Carpenter and FP Sanchez?
Bob and FP. I can't listen to Bob and FP now. Like when there's a game.
FP's gone. So,
well, you can't listen to him.
Yeah.
When the Nationals had a game on MLB Network and it was Bob and FP on the call, I would just turn away from it. I'm like, I can't. This is unbearable.
My Uncle Gary will never let me forget the time in 2009 when the Nationals were just awful. And FP said that the Nationals infield was better than the New York Yankees infield, which, may I remind you, that Yankees infield had Mark Teixeira, Robinson Cano, Derek Jeter, and Alex Rodriguez on it. Like, all 4 of them were all-stars. And FP was suggesting that a team that won 60 games had a better infield than the New York Yankees, who won the World Series.
What? He should have been fired then.
Yeah, well, it took 10 years too long, but yeah.
That's not analysis, my guy. Like, that's just making stuff up.
Oh, I will give him credit. He predicted the end of Miguel Gonzalez after he gave up the Bryce Harper home run that traumatized you.
Yeah, I hit the deck like it was, an active shooter situation. Downtown Baltimore just bang so loud. I'm like, I need to get duck and cover for a second. No, just Harper hit a home run off of Miguel Gonzalez.
So I think that covers the NBA for this week. Let's turn over to football, starting with the college game. Evan has gotten some stuff in here for us to discuss, starting with the college football playoff rankings, which are now out. Our top 10 are Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Penn State. How about the Nittany Lions?
Yeah, how about them?
Did they get toasted by somebody?
Did they have any good games recently? Did they maybe win by a palindromic score this past weekend?
Oh, they curb stomped Maryland again.
51-15.
Yikes.
I know, because I was there.
Oh, okay.
So was Sean Kennedy,
Yes,
friend of the show.
He was not that far from me. We were both sitting on the Penn State side, and it was brutal.
Well, at least they didn't
Why
cancel
were you
class
on the Penn
this time.
State side?
Because I got tickets from a certain individual you're not friends with anymore, and he bought them there. So,
Why? That's really bizarre. That's like extra bizarre.
His buddy, who was a Penn State fan, by the way, suggested they buy tickets in the end zone.
He can be friends with people who root for teams that play against Maryland? I didn't know that was possible. It's growth.
He's grown up, man. What can I say? So I had to sit there with a horde of Penn State fans, including this guy who was also a little inebriated. And we are Penn State. I'm just like, I want to kill all of you. I didn't
Ask them if they know what colors are, for the uniforms.
I hate their colors. I think their uniforms.
What colors? They have a color.
The one thing I will say, the Penn State pet band got to perform during the game. They ain't got nothing on Terps pet band.
Pet band or marching band?
Marching band, whatever,
Oh.
same thing.
Why did their band get to perform during a road game?
That happens.
Yeah,
During
that
college
happens.
Games.
They travel with the teams?
Yeah. Like
It's a lot
sometimes.
of money to spend to transport all the
This
equipment,
is college
the gear.
football, man.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense. You
Yeah,
gotta
no,
understand.
like
This
Geor-
is an entire operation here of stupidity.
Yeah, Georgia Tech was hosting like Alcorn State or South Carolina State, some HBCUs, and I was telling all these white guys in the student section, like, you got to watch the marching bands of the HBCUs. They're gonna bring it, and I think
They are
yeah.
definitely gonna bring
and
it.
it was quite something.
Yeah, but the Penn State were the marching band was wearing their tooth white outfits with their crappy navy gear, and Maryland's got their bright red and black stuff on. Like, we look sharp. Like their guys look a little. I'm not feeling it, but of course then the football game started and somebody else looked sharp and the other team looked overmatched.
So college football playoffs will expand to 12 teams next season.
Yeah.
This year it's still 4. So if the season were to end right now, we would figure it'd be Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, and Florida State. Do you guys expect it to stay that way? Do you think that one or more of those teams is going to fall out? And if so, who amongst those next 6 do you think would be most likely to jump in? Would it be like Oregon?
I imagine Oregon and Washington are going to play again in the Pac-12 championship game. Washington beat Oregon by 3 in Seattle, maybe like a month ago now.
Yeah, that's a good game.
That game was insane. So one of them is going to go, and then I would say the loser of Ohio State and Michigan will be eliminated. Just because there's a Pac-12 team now that we aren't used to having in the conversation.
I think that if it comes down to, we also have to consider the elephant in the room. and that's-
Alabama?
No, not those elephants. The Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan cheating scandal element here, because the Big Ten has a lot of pressure on it right now from rival schools in Michigan to lay the hammer down on that team for whatever the hell they actually did.
I don't think they did much of anything.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's college football. So
Yeah.
if some type of penalty comes for them, who knows what that means for this year? Like that still hasn't been adjudicated yet. So I'm curious to see how that all plays out. But other than that, like Ohio State's resume is strong. There's a reason they're the number 1 team in the country. If their only loss ends up being to Michigan, they could easily end up making it in, I think. But
Over a conference champion like Florida State or Washington?
I'm curious about Washington just because I don't really think they're that good, but they are undefeated.
I mean, it is hard when you figure that Ohio State is the number 1 team. You would think that they could potentially absorb 1 loss against another really good team.
Yeah.
So
I feel like Georgia, though, if they lose a game, they have to be out, right? Like,
Are you saying that because you're a
right,
hater, or are you saying that
because they are the
Well, there's-
defending national champions, so you would figure they could take 1 loss and still be considered as one of the 4 best.
But they haven't played much of a
but
schedule.
they have nobody on their schedule. Nobody. It's
So then,
just,
what are the odds of them even losing a game?
well, they're low, but like if they lose a game,
Fair enough.
they lost to somebody who sucks.
Fair enough.
They got Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Georgia Tech left.
Ole
Miss is
good,
number 9.
right?
Yeah.
Tennessee's cheeks, they proved to be frauds, and Georgia Tech is your boys. So
Yeah.
Speaking of which, a couple weeks ago, Georgia Tech, as you guys mentioned, you were there for their meeting with number 17 North Carolina. Georgia Tech won that game by 4, 46-42, high-scoring affair. And then this past Saturday, they laid the hammer down on Virginia, 45-17.
In Charlottesville.
Yeah. So, thoughts on your yellow jackets, Evan? You're wearing the yellow sort of jacket.
I mean,
it's a hoodie.
that
This is my
ass.
Skyrush sweatshirt. But like, I mean, it's nice to see the guys just being competitive, right? Because most of the time, like, let's say it was the end of the 2021 season, we played Notre Dame and lost 55-0, and then followed it up with a loss to Georgia 45-0. So I don't think stuff like that is going to happen again. It was homecoming down at Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago, and it was also the time that Paul Johnson was honored because he's going into the College Football Hall of Fame.
So that is the sticker that Eric just handed me.
And they were giving out stickers.
I had, there's some people that were giving them out at a tailgate, and she handed me a bunch of them, and I told her, well, you're giving me too many because I'm fresh out of friends. I don't have any other friends. I'm just with him. And he already had one. So, that was... I still have one more in my wallet. I think I gave one to your buddy Ross, too. So.
Oh, I hope so.
I think everybody... You have one, Evan. Corey now has one. I've still got one.
I don't know where mine is.
Oh, well.
So I probably won't know where mine is by tomorrow.
This is like your Cedar Fair pass when we went to Kings Dominion. You lost it in 5 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, immediately.
But yeah, it was a good time as a neutral observer who had never been to a Georgia Tech home football game. I've been to plenty of Georgia Tech road football games, and usually
you have?
Against the Terps, and they usually lost to the Terps somehow, which is impressive. So.
Yeah, y'all used to share a conference, Evan, if you didn't remember.
Back in the day, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes y'all beat our asses though, because we sucked. But
I mean,
I know you're an old man now. It's hard to remember back that far.
Well, since I became a Georgia Tech fan in 2008, we only played Maryland twice, and it was in 2010 and 11, and Tech won both of those.
sounds about right.
I was at the one in 2010. That wasn't close. And then the one in 2011 here in College Park was less close in the pouring rain.
That was the Randy Edsall rookie year when we went 2-10, so that would make sense. But
the
Georgia
triple
Tech,
option was unstoppable.
The vibe was immaculate, given that Georgia Tech's program has not been particularly relevant for a long time, and then I contrasted it with what the vibe was like at the Maryland game against Penn State on Saturday, and I was just like, there's no juice here, right? I wanted to go home before the first quarter was over. I'm like, I'm tired of being here. This sucks. And Georgia Tech, the fans were into it. The student section was packed, and it's obviously it stayed packed because the game was competitive. But Maryland student
and
section
y'all actually
cleared out.
won.
Yeah. But they had their little pageantry. Y'all had some goofy chants that you did with some salty language at times. You didn't seem to know what that was. Yeah.
No, that's been there for forever.
Okay, well there you go.
There was a designated bust their ass screamer.
Yes, and then there's and at the start of the fourth quarter, suddenly Evan stands up and starts doing some squats, and I'm like, what is happening? I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna go with it, and I started doing squats too. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know if I'm on the right time.
The Budweiser song.
I don't know what any of that is, but all I knew was that I was like, damn, this has actually turned into a good football game. And one note I have to say from the other guys, Drake May, stud.
Oh, yeah.
Stud. I'm not normally a guy that jumps on the Great White Hope at the quarterback position. Take him over Caleb Williams. Full stop. Take him over Caleb Williams.
This isn't Mitch Trubisky 2.0.
No.
Or
or Sam Howell.
I was going to say the other guy. Yeah, Sam Howell.
No. Drake May is legit. He made, every throw that came out of his hand looked like it had a purpose. It had zip. It was accurate. He threw a guy open in a college game. You don't see that very
for
often.
A touchdown.
Yeah, for a tutter. And the thing is, as soon as he cut it loose, I don't know about you, but I was sitting there and I was like, okay, the receiver hasn't cleared the safety yet. The ball's already in the air, and I was like, that's going to be a touchdown. Full stop. I could just tell. And the safety was on the left side of the receiver, and then the ball was thrown on the right side, and just right on the money. The safety had no shot to make a play on it. Just for an easy touchdown, I was just like, that's a pro's throw.
Well, then I am looking forward to watching his tape this spring, and I'll definitely be looking for any film that I can find of his Georgia Tech game.
There's plenty of it.
There's definitely some stuff to see there. He was throwing some rockets, and I was absolutely impressed. And he wasn't crying with his mama, up in the stands like Caleb Williams was.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying.
Drake May lost to Georgia Tech last year too, so
that's tonight.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm also just going to say this, as a proud DeMatha alum, I don't care if Caleb Williams threw that one Hail Mary against us. You wouldn't see no stag crying to his mama in the stands of a college football game like that. You wouldn't see it. That was unbecoming. unbecoming.
That it was.
Like, don't get me wrong, I don't have any problem with people showing emotion and crying on the sidelines. But don't be going up to your mama in the stands and have her cradle your head like you're 5 years old. You know. Plus, he's also been a diva all season. So
Yeah.
He won the Heisman Trophy.
So
I mean,
so what?
he's what, 19 years old and he won the Heisman
100 other
Trophy?
people have won the Heisman Trophy. Why does he get to act like a fool? Not letting him off the hook. Johnny Manziel won a Heisman Trophy. Do we like him?
No.
So there you go. Enough said.
Big Noon Saturday is going to be featuring number 3 Michigan at number 10 Penn State this weekend, so you guys can watch that. Number 18 Utah in action at number 5 Washington. That's a 3:30 game on Fox. Same time on CBS. You can catch a close matchup in as far as rankings. Number 13 Tennessee at number 14 Missouri. And the other matchup between ranked opponents this weekend, 7 p.m. on ESPN this Saturday. Number 2 UGA is hosting number 9 Ole Miss.
College game day will be in Athens this week.
Speaking of which, I met some guys that produced Big Noon Saturday and other football games at Looney's on during the week.
Yeah.
Because they came in town because they were doing the Maryland Penn State game.
Okay.
And fun fact that I didn't know, maybe you guys knew this, like big broadcasting companies like Fox, NBC, ESPN, they don't own their own stuff, like their own equipment. They outsource that to contractors, and they provide rigs and camera crews.
I figured that was
like
probably the case for a lot of them. I mean, like when I was at the DeMatha game against St. John's a few weeks ago, where ESPNU was, and I guess it actually ended up being on ESPN2, but they were doing that game. I'm watching, I'm seeing the cameraman down on the sideline. Like, he's not wearing any ESPN gear. Like,
Right.
It's him, and he's got 2 guys like trailing behind him. He's got the camera. They're carrying the cables and like wrapping them, making sure they don't get tangled and stuff. So I kind of figured that might be the case, but that is interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was a little interesting tidbit. I was like, wow, you guys don't actually work for, because he said initially we work for Fox, and I was like, oh, okay. He was like, no, we don't actually work for Fox. We are a contractor that Fox hires. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
One other game of note for this week. Is Maryland playing this weekend?
Yeah.
Who are they playing? Because nobody put it
They're
in the
on
show
the
notes.
road at Nebraska. I didn't put it in the show notes because I don't care.
Oh, you don't want to watch Maryland and Nebraska play football?
Not particularly, no.
There's going to be 87,000 people there for,
To watch that.
Yes.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
One of my former
You could be
athletes will
spending a
probably
much
be at
better
that game.
time.
One of my former athletes will probably be at that game.
In Nebraska?
He goes to Nebraska.
Oh.
Yeah.
What else is there to do in Lincoln, Nebraska? Exactly.
Eat corn, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you husk
or
the
husk
corn.
corn. Yeah.
Sure, go ahead and do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think technically it's shucking the corn, not husking the corn. But
Well, they are the
husking
corn
would be to
huskers.
put the husk back on the corn, I think.
So what?
I don't know.
Because it would sound weird to call them corn shuckers, I guess.
Just call him something else then, man.
Evan just put in here ABC's Little Noon Saturday. Georgia Tech at Clemson.
Yes. So Georgia Tech wins. We are going to a bowl game.
Let's see if they get to go bowling.
Maybe we'll see, like, when we go on the road this year for a bowl game. Maybe it'll be for Georgia Tech instead of Maryland. Who would have thought that?
I'm honestly hoping for like the military bowl because that's down the street from here.
Yeah.
Go
over to
that'd be
Raljan
nice.
and watch that game. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was at Navy.
Or is it Navy? Okay. Well, is there a bowl game at Raljan? I thought there was.
Maybe that's the military bowl. I don't know.
I thought it was at Raljan, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the NFL. So we won't talk too much about Week 8 as far as the entire NFL, just because it would be a lot to try and get through if we were to fully recap 2 weeks. But we will talk about our teams. I'll start with my Lions, who were on bye this past week. So only one game to talk about, and that was the win against the Raiders in Week 8. It was a 26-14 victory. Sort of, just the status quo ho-hum game plan for the Lions, where, they get their lead and then they just rely on the run game. And Jahmyr Gibbs had a monster day in the absence of David Montgomery, who should be back this week. He seems to be fully active, no injury designation on the Lions injury report. So all signs point toward Montgomery taking back over the lead back role in that offense this week, which I think it'll be good. Again, Jahmyr Gibbs stepped up big time against that Raiders defense, but the Raiders defense also isn't that great with the exception of Max Crosby.
He's great, though.
He is great.
Stud.
He is great. And he
He
feels like he is everywhere, but he can't literally be everywhere. And so the Lions did a good job mostly running away from him with Jahmyr Gibbs in that game.
And they didn't have Alejandro Villanueva trying to block him.
Yeah.
Allegedly trying to block him. Good God.
So a good bye week for the Lions to have this past week. Got Montgomery healthy. Hopefully Amon-Ra St. Brown will be more fully healthy because he's been dealing with little things here and there. He still played okay, but hasn't been as effective as you would have wanted. So that'll be good to have him back. Eric, let's talk about your Saints.
Do we have to?
I want to talk about Dennis Allen. He's, I think he's proving
boy.
himself to be a really intelligent coach who, knows how to give his team, put his team in positions to win. He's coaching up Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill has had a bunch of really good games that Evan has not gotten a taste of in his fantasy lineup because he keeps benching them.
Well, that's a completely different topic of Evan's fantasy management there with Taysom Hill, who Evan decried as useless, I believe, a few years ago.
And now Taysom Hill is in his lineup provisionally. For
Like,
this week.
you didn't say he was useless?
I didn't say he was useless. You said that. I told you he wasn't useless. I just said he should.
Yeah.
be.
You were calling him the useless
No.
Taysom Hill for years.
That was you.
That was not Eric.
Check
That
the
was
tape.
us. That was us.
That's not what the truth is.
That was you and me,
Yeah,
Evan.
check
That was
the
not
tape.
Eric.
Yeah, I every time Taysom Hill did
Eric-
something,
when-
I would say, "Oh,
okay.
okay, not useless."
Yes.
Yes, every time.
And there may have been a couple times where he said like useless Taysom Hill, but I could tell that like he was saying that sarcastically
Yeah, I
because
put it-
it's what we
I
have
put it
been
in
calling him.
quotes.
He's like,
Everyone
oh, there's
was
useless
on
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, making it happen, getting it done. Dennis Allen sucks. He's on the Butch Jones list of shame, I should say. Maybe I should just change the name to something.
Butch Loans.
Yeah, Butch Loans. Yeah. But so the Saints were up 7 with maybe 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and the Linsanity run of Tyson Bagent is over. Right, like he can't play. He's not good, and it's fourth down at like the 24-yard line. So it's a 41-yard field goal to push the Saints up by 10. 2-possession lead. Easy call. Kick the field goal, right?
Yeah.
Wrong.
Well, of course. You don't want to kick the field goal there.
Yeah.
Was the kicker injured?
No.
No, this was not a Kaimi Fairbairn situation where you had to put Dare Ogunbowale out there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little
Pronouncing
bit.
all the names.
Yes.
Here.
Corey's all over it because he put it in bad beats. He wants to cry it because he lost. He lost a pick'em game on that one.
Oh.
So, anyway, they don't kick the field goal. It gets stuffed, and so I had to watch the next 7 minutes of football just praying that the Saints would somehow get across the finish line and win the game.
And he did.
They did, but
Thanks to Dennis Allen.
it was pulling teeth, man. All right, so they don't kick the field goal. Obviously, the defense comes on the field, and the Saints' defense is good, and the Bears' offense is awful. So they get the stop, and then they come down the field again, get inside field goal range, but it's a harder kick this time. It's like 48 yards instead of 41, and Groupie doinks it off the upright, and so it's still a 7-point game, and now the Bears have the ball around midfield, and I'm just like, how are we going to lose this game? I know it's going to happen somehow, but how are we going to pull this off? And then they eventually got another stop and ran the clock out. Didn't cover, by the way, which they would have if they had made one of those field goals. And it was very frustrating. And I was like, how is this guy employed? Like, how? Why is he the coach?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and give away that my biggest regret pick from this past week was picking the Saints to cover an 8.5-point spread against Chicago because I should have known that Dennis Allen could not coach his team to a 9+ point victory.
But then you would have been picking Matt Eberflus instead.
And Tyson Bagent.
I'll take Matt Eberflus and 8.5 points over Dennis Allen minus 8.5 points.
Well, sure you will now. Because the
I
game
sh-
already
I sh-
happened.
I
But
should
you
have
didn't
known that at the
before.
time, and that is why it's my biggest regret.
Speaking of which,
because
I
I
got-
should have known that.
I got to kill your Ravens for a second.
Uh-huh.
Because we were on an aircraft
Yes.
flying home.
I put that in the notes that
Yes.
you haven't read yet, apparently.
I didn't read that part.
Okay.
So we're flying home from Atlanta on Sunday, and this plane is tricked out with NFL Network, so we're kind of keeping up with the games and stuff while we're in the air. And the Ravens are playing the Cardinals. The Ravens were 8.5-point favorites in that game. And the Cardinals scored a touchdown to cut the lead to 10. They were down by 16. And they were lining up to go for 2 because, you try to cut it to a one-possession game. They had some penalty, committed a hold, I think. It got pushed back to a
12.
It turned into a 12-yard attempt to try to score a 2-point conversion. They ultimately fail. And there's, a minute left in the game. I'm like,
and they're out of timeout.
They're out of timeouts. And I'm like, all right, well, cool. So the Ravens are going to cover. Mm-hmm. And then later on, at 20 minutes later, we're still just flying around, cruising altitude, whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. I won the Ravens game. And then Evan just points, looks like the Cardinals got a field goal. And I'm just like, Bryan Cranston in that gif of whatever movie, I'm just like, I can't say what he said, but he's like, I'm just like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. How did this happen? Well, as it turns out, special teams coordinator extraordinaire John Harbaugh decided to put Nelson Aguilar, of all people, on the hands team. This generation's most notorious butterfingered receiver is on the hands team. Well, lo and behold, the onside kick goes right to him, and he botches it. And the Cardinals get the ball, and they go kick a field goal to cover the spread.
He didn't botch the next one, though.
I don't care. Why was he out there for the next one?
Why was there a next one?
I can't believe it.
Unbelievable.
I cannot believe that happened.
Botches.
Yeah. And what's worse is that we didn't see any of this.
No, they didn't bother showing it because it wasn't relevant.
It was irrelevant.
I saw it on Red Zone.
Good for you. I didn't see any of it. We were stuck with whatever they were showing us.
Yeah.
Which was usually Patrick Mahomes inexplicably being able to score on the Denver Broncos.
Not being able to
Not
score.
being able to score.
Yeah, he didn't do nothing.
Yeah, that was a bad game.
Yeah. It led to my biggest...
He's got nothing on Jordan. Flu game.
No.
Not good for Patrick Mahomes.
My Patrick Mahomes is Michael Jordan in cleats took a little bit of a hit.
Yeah. Evan, outside of the 31-24 victory against the Cardinals, because bottom line is they did still win the game. They just didn't cover the spread, so it didn't do me or Eric any good.
Nope. Told y'all.
This past week, you guys got your second blowout win in the last 3 weeks. Thank you for including the 38-6 trouncing of the Lions in the show notes. We didn't need to talk about that again. We already covered that 2 weeks ago. But y'all crushed the Seahawks 37-3.
Told you that. And you picked the Ravens to cover. What you were doing.
I mean, the word I heard to describe this game was that the Ravens disemboweled the Seahawks on Sunday.
That's quite a word.
Yeah, because it wasn't close at all. Just
you picked the Hawks to cover.
Because I have a hard time trusting this Ravens team. They play up or down to their competition.
They just have the highest DVOA in the league and third highest in a decade. That's it.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, other than that, but...
They're number 4 offensive, number 2 defensive.
Yeah.
Number 14 special teams, probably only because of that one play.
Because, John Harbaugh, special teams coordinator, who made Justin Tucker good, that's a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So... a little bit of a surprise there. Not used to Ravens curb stomping good teams. That's different.
That's disrespectful, man.
Like they just did 2 weeks ago.
Well,
I mean, mentioned in the show notes.
The Lions? You're saying they're not a good team?
No, I'm saying they are. I'm not used to this happening. Right?
It's twice now.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens in the next few games then. There's other good teams on the schedule too.
The Bengals next week.
Next Thursday.
Yeah. You play the Browns on Sunday
in Cleveland. So I feel like those will be close games. I felt like the Lions should have been close, and the Seahawks game should have been close, but those weren't. Maybe this is a Jekyll and Hyde team, and Dr. Jekyll seems to have it under control now. I don't know what the deal is, but the defense was dominant. The Ravens had 270 more rushing yards than the Seahawks, and the Seahawks had 28, I think.
But speaking of which, to go back to Maryland had like negative 50.
Oh yeah, I saw
Against
that.
Penn
Yes,
State.
it was minus
Were they taking a lot of
49.
sacks? Because I know sacks
Sacks
rushing
were
yards.
like Talia got sacked a lot, but I think that in terms of like if you looked at actual rushing attempts, I think the number was like 0. They didn't gain a yard on a rushing attempt all game. Yeah.
Or I mean, they had to have gained a yard and then lost yards.
Yeah, they had plays where they gained a yard, and then it was erased by losing a yard.
Oh well, there you go.
So it netted out to 0.
For like actual rushing attempts.
Yes.
So all of their yardage came from the sacks.
I would have to, check the tape with Hugh and the box score, but the point is, it went down in the book as negative 49 rushing yards
Gee whiz.
for the Terps.
I've never heard of that.
I hadn't
That's-
either.
that's-
I'm
kind
gonna
of impressive.
check. I'm gonna check the scorebook for Cumberland College to see if they got positive rushing yards against Georgia Tech.
The 222
Yes.
to nothing game.
Yeah, I think they moved the ball some, right?
I don't know, man. I wasn't around. That was a long time ago.
Biggest regrets from this past week. I already mentioned that the Saints pick was my biggest regret. Eric, you have the Dolphins. You lone wolfed on them for the Germany game, the first of two Germany games
It
this
was
season.
so stupid. We talked about the Dolphins not being able to beat good teams.
Particularly teams with like
Physical
decent to
front
good
lines.
defenses, which is exactly what the Chiefs have.
Right, and so I bought into what I saw from the Chiefs against the Broncos. I was like, that was horrible. So I was like, well, no, come on, man. The Dolphins are definitely going to beat them. And I was like, wait a second. That's 1 week versus basically a half-season sample.
And it was a
from
week
Miami.
where Patrick Mahomes was sick.
He was
There were
sick, yeah.
excuses that could be made for it.
They made them all.
What's really
yeah.
interesting is that the Chiefs ended up beating the Dolphins, despite I think Kelsey only had like 4 targets. He had like 14 yards in the
Kelsey
game.
looked like he was actually 34 years old for the first time. Like he actually looked like an old player that.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't fly Taylor Swift out for that game.
I think she had a show.
Oh, well, that was unfortunate.
She makes
for
a lot more money
It was very
doing a show.
unfortunate for Travis Kelsey.
She probably makes more money doing a show than Travis Kelsey makes all season.
She might make more money from all the advertising the NFL can do with her in it than she does from the show, though.
Doesn't matter. The point is, she's got to take care of her business.
Yeah.
Travis Kelsey needs to figure out how to play better when she's not in the house.
Evan, you have any regret picks from this past week?
I mean, I guess we talked about the Ravens enough. I'll say the Panthers. I don't
you
even
rolled
remember
with
what the
them?
score of that game was.
They
played
the Colts,
Indy.
They
got
played the Colts,
smoked.
and
that was
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Not really weird because the Panthers are really bad, but
Yeah.
It was in
And
Charlotte
the
too.
Colts have Jonathan Taylor back, and he's playing well.
they got Minshew Mania, man.
Yeah, they do have Minshew
Yeah,
Mania.
so missed that one by a mile. I also missed the Rams and Packers by a mile, but I feel like I should have been on the right side of that one because the Packers are horrible.
Yeah.
But they rolled the Rams.
Yeah.
Without
What?
Matthew Stafford.
Well, Stafford's got a broken hand or something
Yeah,
like
they've
that.
don't know.
got Brett Rippon as their starting quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Simmons and Sal a couple weeks ago did they did a fantasy draft of worst quarterbacks, and they just went through all these bums, and Rippon was selected.
As he probably
Yeah,
should. He's
along
not
with
good.
along with Tommy DeVito and several other these bums that are actually making starts.
We'll mention Tommy DeVito because that line is coming weak for the Giants.
Needs to go home and get a shine box.
Oh my God. All right, proudest picks from this past week. I gotta say that my proudest pick was definitely taking Minnesota plus 4.5 against Atlanta. I wasn't. I was a little bit nervous just because Dobbs wasn't listed as the starter.
Yeah, he just
But
showed
I
up.
fully expected that he was going to make it into that game, and I felt like the 4.5 was just too much. I thought that was too disrespectful. The Vikings still have some decent, skilled players. Alexander Madison has been playing a little bit better recently than he was early in the season. Certainly you're missing, your top quarterback and your top wide receiver, but you have other good receivers on that roster. And the Falcons have Arthur Smith coaching them. They refuse to use Bijan Robinson. They refuse to use Kyle Pitts. Like, Jonnu Smith is their best tight end right now, which is why he's going to be starting for me in fantasy with Dallas Goedert going on the IR for the next few weeks. Like, I feel pretty good having Jonnu Smith right now.
You feel good about that?
Yes.
I wouldn't feel
I
good.
think you're the first person to say that.
I feel pretty good about having Jonnu Smith right now. I'll be honest. So I was pretty proud of that pick.
Yeah, can I piggyback off of that just because that's my most surprising pick?
Oh,
'Cause
sure.
I might as well. Like, and again, it's like I put this as my most surprising, not because I was shocked by the fact that the Vikings won the game and that they covered. Right, that didn't shock me. I was just more impressed, if anything, like the way they won it, given the fact that Dobbs came off the street. Like, they just got off the jetway a couple minutes ago, and he's in there playing football, and they're having to map out the plays to him in the headset before the clock runs out. And, he's leading game-winning drives and scoring 4 touchdowns. Like, how does that happen?
How does that work though? Because I was under the impression that if you have the green dot on your helmet, it cuts off with like several seconds.
With 15
left.
seconds, yeah.
Yeah, so they were mapping out quick.
Yeah, they had to do it quick.
Okay,
Yeah, once it got to 15, it was like, all right, you're on your own, buddy.
Right,
so
right.
they're doing all that. He's having to ask his teammates what stuff is, all while playing a football game against a professional football team. And
Allegedly.
And as my guy Bomani Jones said, he had to feel confident because when you're playing the Atlanta Falcons, you always have a chance. And
it reminds me of another great quarterback just a season ago who did something similar, got off the bus and led the Rams to a win. Baker Mayfield.
who looked like he balled out this week and then not.
Yeah.
It's just a shame. I felt bad for him because he deserved that win.
Eric, your proudest pick of the week was the Bengals over the Bills, which fair, but all three of us picked the Bengals to cover that spread.
I don't even see that on here.
I mean, but still, I watched the game and I was like, "Oh, there you go."
Yeah,
that's what I expected to see.
Fair enough.
Like, the Bengals own the Bills. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Like let's not fail to mention they beat them in the playoff game last year decidedly on the road.
In the snow.
They were on their way. I firmly believe this with every fiber of my being. Before what happened to DeMar Hamlin happened, they were on their way to beating their asses raw.
Maybe. I mean, it was very early in the game, but it was 7-0.
Yeah, it was 7-0, and they got the ball back.
And they got the ball back, and they were moving the ball. It was likely they were going to at least go up 10-0, if not 14-0.
Everything about the way that game was playing out looked like that game in the snow and that game last night.
Which is part of what caused us to feel such respect for Zach Taylor, in the way that he handled that situation. Certainly, certainly there isn't really any other way that you can rightfully handle that situation if you're Zach Taylor, but you still have to respect the fact that this is a guy who basically just gave up a win.
Well,
let's
also keep it real. The NFL ain't usually in the business of canceling games. If he had pushed for them to finish the game,
the NFL
would have finished the game.
Right, yeah.
So, the fact that he, was the guy who ultimately made the call to do it, that he gets credit for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Zach Taylor decided. I thought the NFL decided. It was above his head.
Zach Taylor decided for them because the NFL was going to tell him, get your ass back on the field and play.
Yeah, they were letting the two coaches sort of decide, and ultimately Zach Taylor.
That seems like that should be above.
Taylor initiated it by saying he went up to McDermott and said, "We can't play a football game after what's just going on here."
Yeah.
Oh, that seems like that decision should be above their head, right? But that's the part that surprised me that the coaches.
But here's the thing. It essentially was above their head. The decision was to continue playing the game, and Zach Taylor was like, "Yeah, we're going to refuse to play. We already know you guys are in no position to play, so we're just going to say, we're just going to give the finger to the NFL and say, you figure it out. We're not playing."
Yeah, it's like some Hunger Games stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Evan, did you have a proudest pick, a game that you felt like you nailed this past week?
Steelers on Thursday night. I don't know what y'all were looking at. That was a layup.
It played out like that too, huh?
Yeah. The Manders
almost came down to George Pickens not getting a second foot down, despite the fact that he had 5 yards of space from the sideline in the end zone,
and he spent the whole week
wound
crying.
up with negative receiving yards because he didn't haul that pass in. And somehow they still managed to cover the 2.5 foot line.
George Pickens, he's trying his best to be I think a lot of people. People remember Odell Beckham Jr. for the one catch, right? Mm-hmm. Odell Beckham Jr. was a top 3 receiver in football for several years.
Oh, yeah.
George Pickens ain't close to that.
No.
Okay, he's made some slick catches. I think he's got a lot of talent. He ain't on that level. He needs to get himself together and understand who he is and where he stands in the league, because he's acting like a fool.
He's dangerously close to encroaching on Antonio Brown's.
And how
Oh
good
my
was
God.
Antonio Brown? How good was
Antonio Brown should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
like
he
he's
will be, I think.
great.
No, I'm talking purely about like
But diva stuff?
his mental
Between the
issues.
ears?
Yes,
Oh.
I'm not talking about talent, Evan. To be
Antonio's-
clear,
I think
Antonio's
that
got quite a rap sheet. I think
Yeah.
Pickens has a long way
he has
to
a
go
long way to go
before
in that in that realm
fair.
as well.
He hasn't face kicked a punter yet.
I mean,
That was the coolest thing he did. Like, that guy deserved it. Get out of the way. But he hasn't.
In football, get out of the way. Don't try and tackle people. What are you doing?
You're the punter. Know
Yeah.
your role and shut your mouth.
Well, nobody else was stopping him. He's like, well, I guess I
Just
got to
let
take
him go
it
to the end zone. Then he gets his touchdown. Okay, when George
wasn't that
Pickens
called back because of a roughing penalty?
It might
Right?
have been. George Pickens,
so.
when he cuts his hair like he's a Lego man with a little tip on the top, like Antonio Brown did years ago, then we can start having a conversation of whether he's approaching that category. Until then, let's relax.
Lego man. I like that. All right. Let's most surprising game you were most shocked by the outcome. Eric already gave his, which was the Vikings over the Falcons. I don't think that there was really one of the outcomes that shocked me. I wound up having a really good game, a really good week. I only got 3 games wrong. Should have been 2. We'll get to that in a second. But the Titans Steelers game, I can't say I was shocked by that because the Titans aren't that great of a team. They were the second team that I eliminated from the playoffs this year.
And that's exactly how the Steelers have won all year.
Yeah.
They put together one drive and they win.
yeah, like they've been outgained by I think 790 yards over 9 games. Or 8 games. They've only played 8 games.
5-3.
They've been outgained by almost 100 yards per game this season, and they're 5-3.
Your boy picked the Steelers to make the playoffs, by the way, and somehow that's actually looking kind of good.
Yeah.
Like they're in right now.
The Bengals are in last place.
And you know who's not in the playoffs right now? Buffalo Bills.
Oh, well, because the whole AFC North is in, and the Dolphins are leading the East.
And because the Buffalo Bills have found a way to lose 4 games somehow this year.
They're third place in the AFC East.
They lost to the Patriots. I mean, come on. Yeah, they're behind the Jets. The Jets
Yes,
are 4.
the Jets are ahead of them.
Well, are they? The Jets are 4-4. The the Bills are 5-4.
Are they?
Yeah,
Oh well, they must have temporarily slipped to third then.
probably because
Because the Jets didn't play until
Yeah.
was it? They played Monday night,
and they lost.
so they would have been tied at the time.
Yeah.
something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
The other game that I got wrong was the Saints against Chicago, but that was an 8.5-point spread. And we've been over Dennis Allen. Like, I can't be all that shocked by
Derek
that.
Carr.
And
Let's
Derek
not
Carr,
forget about
yes.
him.
He's bad too. I thought
he's
he
been
would
really
be better.
bad.
I'm-
I thought
think
he would be
he's
better
just-
than
he's-
this.
Like he used to be pretty good. He's cooked. Like he's just
Yeah.
not good anymore.
yeah.
And then the other game that I got wrong was the Texans and the Bucks. Houston had a -3 line. They scored a touchdown. They're now up by 2. And all they have to do is either bring Dare Ogunbowale back onto the field to kick the extra point. He already made a field goal.
He did, and that
a
was
field
great.
goal that was significant. A field goal that ultimately decided the game. Allowed them to even have the opportunity for that go-ahead touchdown.
Yeah.
Let him kick the extra point. It's a push. Mm-hmm. They decide, no, we're gonna line up to go for 2 because we don't want to risk anything on the extra point. I'm like, oh, okay, well now I get a chance to win it. This is cool. It's gonna go one way or another. We're not gonna get a push. Either I'm gonna get the lone wolf or I'm gonna not get the lone wolf.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're just
And
not
then they
gonna
just
get the
kneel the ball.
Yeah, that's a smart move.
You assholes.
That was the.
I hate you, D'Amico Ryans. Not
He's
really
done a
because
great
he's a
job.
good coach.
He's
He's
been
been a very good
spectacular.
coach. I have a lot of respect for him. But I hate you, D'Amico Ryans.
That he did the right thing.
I don't care.
I know you're mad, but he did
Like
the right
what if the the extra point attempt with the I think linebacker kicking it gets blocked
So many
and
things can go
taken to the
wrong,
house
right?
the other way for 2 points. Now the
I would
game
have
is
beaten you
tied.
guys by 5 points this week instead of only won by 3.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Yes,
You
boo-hoo.
You got lucky you were even in that position. The game should have been over. There's 40 seconds left and Baker Mayfield scored the game-winning touchdown. Should have
Bucks
been it.
suck.
Yeah, was pretty bad.
He threw a game-winning touchdown to the worst tight end who has ever started a game in our fantasy league.
Yes, I firmly
Mike
still believe
Gesicki?
it.
No, Kate Otten.
Kate Otten. I saw him last year. I was like, who is that guy?
He started a playoff game for me last year because I didn't have a tight end.
And how'd that work?
It did not work.
Yeah,
That is a bold strategy, Otten. Let's see how it plays out.
That's put that in the title.
Yeah.
That's gonna be written down. That's pretty good.
Is that a movie quote too? Out of
Yes.
me? Oh
Yes,
my goodness.
yes.
A movie quote minus a letter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, but that was very good.
Okay.
I'm surprised and impressed.
Okay. I just, look at a lot of memes on the internet.
Well,
'cause
that's a fitting meme from a movie that you probably haven't actually seen.
I have no idea what movie it is.
You pulled it right out of the top of your
Yeah,
head.
No idea.
It's dodgeball.
It's from Dodgeball.
Oh, really?
It's Dodgeball,
Okay.
an underdog
I have
story.
seen that.
You have seen dodgeball?
Yeah, I was on the bus on one of the music trips.
Oh,
I probably fell asleep.
That's a good movie.
How do you fall asleep during Dodgeball?
I mean,
Anyway, so I put that down on bad beats because that was a bad beat for me.
It was, yeah.
that's a pretty bad beat, but you know.
CJ Stroud was amazing.
He's
this
incredible.
week. He is so good. So in my
Stolen from Steven.
in my sports journalism class, I do some practice assignments for my students just to learn skills with interviewing and all that stuff. So I put together a stat sheet. It's from an actual game, but it was not actually Houston versus Carolina. But I took these stats and I made it look like it's from a Super Bowl, from Super Bowl 58, which is the upcoming one. And I had it as Houston beat Carolina in the Super Bowl. And the kids actually did a really good job with the questions. Like one kid, when they had when Frank Reich was up there, he was like, so what do you attribute like coming back from an 0-6 start to like making it to the Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Like pulling actual stuff from this season as if like somehow we're actually leading toward that Super Bowl. But
They just won the rest of
I
the
wanted
games.
to have like CJ Stroud because he's been playing so well, and like they got a chance to like interview CJ Stroud and stuff. So it's fun, but like he's playing so well. Tank Dell is playing great. Like that offense is humming. Dalton Schultz has been fantastic. The defense has been playing really well too. Like let's not let the defense go unnoticed. They're not amazing. They're 18th right now in DVOA. But last year, they were one of the worst teams in the league in DVOA.
Dude, they were supposed to get the number 1 pick last year until Lovie Smith threw a wrench in their plans. Like, they're a terrible team.
Yeah, last
Probably
year,
the best thing that could have happened for them.
So last year, they were the best team against quarterbacks as far as fantasy goes. Like, you did not want to start quarterbacks against them. But it was because their run defense was so bad and because they would let teams get out to, like, a 2-touchdown lead early in the game. And then teams just wouldn't throw on them. They would just run the ball the rest of the time. Like, this defense was so putrid last year. The fact that they are number 18 in DVOA right now is actually amazing.
Got a little Kyle turn the TikTok camera on moment here.
Oh.
I just thought about this. And it's because of what you just said, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
We gave a certain former member of our fantasy league a lot of grief for trading the number 1 overall pick. Maybe he was onto something because the Texans looked like they were going to be the likely number 1 pick team, and they probably would have picked Bryce Young.
Would they have?
I imagine they probably would have. He was the consensus number 1 overall pick. And instead, they slid back to 2, and they got the better quarterback. So maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, maybe Lovey had, the Texans' best interest at heart.
No, you still don't trade the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, no.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, the Bears got the number 1 overall pick, and they traded it away.
Yeah, how's that worked out for them?
Like, they can't pick anybody.
Well, they're going to probably pick the number 1 pick because they have the Panthers pick.
Oh, okay.
And they have their own pick, which is going to be really high,
Which might
too,
be
'cause-
second.
Yeah, so they could draft...
They could draft 2 bums instead of 1. Like,
Draft Drake May. You think he's going to be a bum?
no.
Do you think Maserati Marv, is he going to be a bum?
Who in the world is that?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison.
And
Okay.
obnoxious ass. I hate him with every fiber of my being. Gus Johnson. He sucks. Get him off the air. He
This
calls
is blasphemous.
He calls all these Ohio State games. He screams at you all afternoon. And every time Marvin Harrison Jr. catches a pass, it's Maserati Marv catches a pass for 4 yards. And I'm just like, I hate him. I hate him. Terrible. I don't need to be yelled at watching a
my
football
goodness.
game. Just leave me alone.
All right. So, best and worst from the past 2 weeks, since we didn't get a chance to go through the Week 8 best and worst per Aaron Schatz quick reads. We'll start with Week 8. The best quarterback was Joe Burrow at 207 DYAR. Burrow wound up as the number 2 quarterback this past week, so he's on a little bit of a hot streak, playing really well, which is probably why Alex Kincaid keeps trying to send me terrible trade offers to get him.
I didn't ask you which Alex when you told me.
Yeah,
that.
well,
Like,
I figured you could figure it out because I said Jerome Ford.
yeah, but I wasn't looking at
Okay,
people's
well,
rosters.
it was
I
Alex
assumed, I
Kincaid.
assumed it was Kincaid because he sent me some goofy trades in
Yeah,
the past.
so first he tried to offer me Jerome Ford for Joe Burrow straight up. Then he said Saquon Barkley for Joe Burrow straight up. I'm like, no. Like, I don't have a backup I'm willing to start in place of him. Joe Burrow's been playing really well, and neither Ford or Barkley are probably going to make my starting lineup after this week.
When is our deadline, by the way? 'Cause-
The 21st.
because the NFL deadline is passed.
Yeah, ours is the 21st. I've thought about
Late.
moving it up, and
That's real late.
people never vote for it, so whatever. Anyway, the worst quarterback
You're
of
enabling Steven at this point.
supposedly he says he's done,
I don't
and then
believe
he sends another trade offer to Andrew or something. Jimmy Garoppolo was the worst quarterback of Week 8 at minus 121 DYAR. The second to worst in Week 8 was Patrick Mahomes at minus 106, but as we mentioned, flu game or whatever illness he was dealing with.
It was a clunker out of him.
Yeah,
really
the best running back by total DYR in Week 8 was Christian McCaffrey at 53. The worst was Alexander Madison at minus 38. Madison was also the worst with minus 33 by rushing only, while Gus Edwards was the best at 42.
Madison was also the worst. I love that.
Yeah.
He's not good.
He's so bad. This is proof that you can't just say, okay, well, this guy's gone, so let's plug this guy in.
Well, he doesn't have any juice, right? You have to be.
He sucks.
Yeah.
Best
Don't
receiver
play.
of Week 8 was A.J. Brown at 91. The worst was Cooper Kupp at minus 43. So we
Kupp.
move on. Yeah, move on to Week
Defend
9.
your boy.
And no surprise here, clearing Burrow by 106 DYAR. C.J. Stroud at 266.
He was
What
slinging
a
it.
day.
The Bucks defense
the
is
worst-
allegedly good.
The worst, aptly, Bryce Young at minus 199.
And the funny thing is, Bryce Young won the head-to-head matchup against C.J. Stroud the previous
did.
week. And it's just like, well, he got that one.
He
so,
did. The best running back by both total and rushing only. I mentioned Gus Edwards was the best by rushing in Week 8. Keaton Mitchell was the best this week. 53 total DYR, 61 rushing.
Who?
That's what I
Baltimore
said.
Ravens, Keaton Mitchell.
I'd never heard of him until
Sounds
Sunday.
made up.
Like,
Yeah,
who is
he was
that?
sitting on Alex Mayo's IR
That's not a-
for that.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was actually on his team. He had it on IR.
Yeah, never heard of.
The worst of Week 9, Jerome Ford. Somehow it makes sense to trade him for Joe Burrow.
He's not good either. Huh?
No, he had minus 49 total. DeAndre Swift had minus 49 rushing only. And then as far as receivers, the best was surprisingly not Tank Dell, but Noah Brown, his teammate, at 57 DYAR. George Pickens was the worst at minus 49.
Oh, and not because of where George Pickens went to school either.
Yeah.
He's just the worst.
Our season-long competition right now, James Daly has won the last 2 weekly fan contests, so congratulations to him on both Week 8 and Week 9. He's got 69 points on the season,
Very nice.
Excellent.
2 ahead of Sean, but 2 behind Eric, and 5 behind me. He's tied with Evan.
Oh, I have a very nice score as well.
Yes, you do.
Oh, okay.
So as far as our competition, just between the 3 of us hosts, we had the same order of finish in each of the last 2 weeks. I finished first, Evan finished second, Eric finished third. Last week we did not get a chance to do our eliminated team, which means that we each have to eliminate 2 teams this week. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through that order. Me, Evan, Eric. We'll do that for 1 round, and then we'll do it for a second round to eliminate our 2 teams for this week. So during that first round, our normal rules apply. Can't eliminate somebody else that was eliminated before you for that round. But once we get through that first round, right? Somebody that I eliminate in the first round, Evan could or Eric could in the second round. So yes, it resets just like it would from week to week normally. So I will kick things off by eliminating the Los Angeles Rams. They are 3 games below 500. I had held on to them for a while, but even with the possibility that Stafford returns after, I think they're on bye this week, but even if he does return in week 11, which there's some optimism he could, I think 3 games is just too much to make up at this point. So I know Eric was getting just a little bit nervous early in the season after he eliminated them in the first week, but
that's gone.
That is gone, and it's gone for me as well. Yeah, so get rid of the Rams. They're donezo. Evan, you get next pick.
Okay.
You've by the way, so far I've eliminated the Cardinals, the Titans, the Bears, the Giants, the Broncos, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Patriots, and now the Rams. Evan, you've eliminated the Colts, Cardinals, Panthers, Bears, Raiders, Patriots, Giants, and Titans last week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, that I guess changes my mind. I was about to sit here and pick the Broncos, but I eliminated them already, right? Didn't you say that?
No, you have not eliminated the Broncos.
Oh, well, they're gone. Goodbye.
Anything more to say about them?
Broncos country, let's punt on the whole season.
So the Broncos have now been eliminated by all 3 of us. I eliminated them back in week 5. Eric eliminated them in week 4, and now we've got Evan with we'll call it week 8 or week 9, I guess, elimination of the Denver Broncos. Eric, you have eliminated the Rams, Panthers, Texans. Maybe a little bit nervous there still.
I'm more worried about another team.
Broncos, Patriots, Giants, Vikings, and Cardinals. Which one? The Vikings?
Vikings, yes.
With Dobbs?
Yeah, they're 5-4 now.
They are 5-4,
and the NFC
they've got
is cheeks.
Yeah, and they've got Dobbs, who is actually playing okay.
They got to put 7 teams into the playoffs.
Eventually, Jefferson's going to come back.
He's practicing this week.
He's not eligible to come back this week, is he?
He's eligible
I think
to practice.
Next week.
He has to, yeah. But he's coming too.
Yeah. So who are you eliminating this week, Eric?
Right, well, I'm going to get ahead of this so that y'all can't snipe this on the next round through, because I do have some teams waiting in the wings that I've built up. I am going to make a bold pick, bold-ish. I'm going to eliminate the New Jersey Jets.
The NJJ, okay.
Yes, they are gone. They're 4-4. But 3 of their wins were absolute nonsense. Had no business ever winning that football game. Those wins were against the Bills week 1, where I don't know what they were doing.
Snoozing.
Yeah, snoozing. They beat. They got their ass whooped by the Cowboys. They also beat.
They beat New England. Have you played them
They
yet?
lost to New England.
Oh.
Yeah, they found a way to lose them. They won that stupid game that cost me $5 against the Eagles. That was garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and there's another game on there where I'm just like, you shouldn't have won that. Oh, the Giants game. That was preposterous, too. Like, what were they doing?
The Giants really sucked,
Yeah,
though.
that ended up being a push, too. That was
but like,
it was a -3
but
line.
It's
They
one
won by
thing
3.
okay, the Giants suck. Okay, the Jets win the game. There was 25 seconds left. The Jets had no timeouts and needed a field goal to force overtime. Zach Wilson throws the ball in the middle of the field on first down, and Kayvon Thibodeau jumps offside, so the clock stops. We complained about this on the plane.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that stops the clock. The next play, Wilson throws it over the middle again, and they spike the ball with 1 second left, and they're just in field goal range.
To send it to overtime, right?
Yeah. And this is after Dable passed on a field goal, and he went for it on 4th one and got stuffed. And I'm just like, what's going on here? Just handing away wins to this crummy Jets team. It's over. They got blown out by the Chargers. Yes, that's right. Blown out by the Chargers. If you get blown out by the Chargers, you cannot make the playoffs. So, they're done.
So we'll go on to our second round of eliminations. Things reset. And it just so happens that the Jets were actually on my list as well.
That's why I took care of them.
Not surprising, Eric. But yes, I am eliminating the Jets with my second pick. This will be my Week 10 elimination. So that puts me at five teams in each conference. So I've got 5 NFC teams eliminated, 5 AFC teams eliminated. and we keep right on rolling. So, Evan, who are you eliminating now? You just eliminated the Broncos. Gotta make sure you don't eliminate any of the other 8 teams that you had already gotten rid of.
Well, let me refamiliarize myself with who's on this list.
Colts, Cardinals, Panthers, Bears, Raiders, Patriots, Giants, Titans, and Broncos.
Let's see. I just kind of scroll to the bottom of the conference standings and pick whoever's the next at the bottom. So, I'll pick the LA Rams. Right? Like, Cooper Kupp is back. He's supposed to be, as soon as Kupp comes back, then they're going to get it rolling. They got toasted by the Packers, who suck. Like, get out of here.
By the Cowboys the previous week.
Ugh. Yeah, they're 3-6, right? Like, they have to pass the Vikings, who are 5-4. They're not going to make that up. Like, that's not going to happen.
All right. And Eric, you get one more.
All right. Well, I've been holding on to this chip for a long time now. I'm going to cash it in. Bears. Get them out of here.
Oh, well, they're 2-7. So.
Yeah, and I haven't eliminated them yet. I've been holding out for a rainy day. This is a rainy day where I had to pick third twice.
Oh, yeah.
So I will mention that Eric has now eliminated 6 NFC teams versus 4 AFC teams, while Evan and I are both at 5-5. But teams that have been eliminated by all 3 of us at this point: the Cardinals, the Bears, the Giants, the Broncos, the Panthers, the Patriots, and the Rams.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Those are appropriate teams to be eliminated.
So, with all of that covered, let's go ahead and jump into our Week 10 game picks. There are 14 games going on this week because we've got 4 teams on bye. Those are the Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, and Eagles. Why do we have the Chiefs, Dolphins, and Eagles all on bye in the same week? Like, all these good teams, just we don't need y'all.
We do, actually, because the NFL sucks right now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you get to watch the Panthers and the Bears instead. Be thankful.
I'm not watching that game.
That's going to be a rough one. So Thursday Night Football kicks us off this week with the Panthers at the Bears. Bears laying 3. So basically just the standard home field advantage there. What are our thoughts on this?
I don't have any
putrid
thoughts.
game?
Give me the Bears. They're at home.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too.
This is so stupid. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'll take.
You're gonna make us watch this game.
No, I'm not. You don't have to watch. I'm not making you do anything. I'm not gonna watch the game even though I'm lone wolf in it. I'll take the Panthers because I don't know. Somebody's getting points, and that usually works when the Bears are playing. Whoever's getting the points usually covers the spread.
But it's a road team on Thursday Night Football.
I don't care about that. Tyson Bagent's still going to be playing quarterback for them, so,
Secret Bagent, man.
Okay.
They were doing that on Fantasy Footballers.
Sunday night. I'd rather just talk about his dad being an arm wrestling champion some more. That's more fun.
Sunday, 9:30 a.m., the last international game of the season for the NFL. Second week in a row that they are playing in Germany.
Is there a Mexico game this year?
Bundesliga.
No, there's no Mexico game this year. But last week we send a pretty good matchup of the Dolphins and the Chiefs out there.
That was the marquee matchup of the week.
Yeah.
Maybe Bengals.
I was actually
Cowboys.
I mentioned I've been watching some South Park, and I saw the episode where the Japanese are killing all the dolphins in Wales.
Yeah, that's a great
And
episode.
when they go and they kill like the NFL Dolphins, they're playing against the Chiefs. I was like, man, I'm just like thinking of this past Sunday, and like it's in Germany, like perfect World War II reference. So, in any case,
they were on the same
this
team
week.
in World War II.
You're welcome, Germany. We're sending you guys the Colts and the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
The greatest rivalry for 10 plus years in the NFL, but 10 years too late.
Yes.
So there you go.
The Colts are the de facto road team in this game. They're laying 1.5 points in this matchup, and personally, I don't think that is nearly enough. I am definitely laying the points and taking the Colts in this one.
Well, do the Germans root for the Colts because they don't like the Patriots? Because the Patriots refers to colonial times, and during the Revolution, there were a lot of German mercenaries. The Hessians fought in lockstep with the British, and we killed a lot of them too.
You might be
didn't
thinking
know
too
that.
deeply about this, but
I'm putting it out there.
fair. I enjoyed the history lessons.
there you go.
I need to read more history books then.
You should.
So does that mean that you're even more solidly on the Colts because
Oh,
you're rooting for them?
I didn't even pay attention to what the line was yet. I just wanted to relay that little bit of information.
So again, the Colts are laying 1.5.
I got the Patriots.
Interesting. Okay.
Patriots.
Yeah. I feel like with these these international games, coaching and experience plays a factor. So give me
The New England Patriots coaching has been
Awful this year.
an
give me
abomination.
Bill.
J.C. Jackson's getting benched. He's not even
Sounds-
making the trip.
Sound like them over at Kansas. Give me Bill forever.
Yeah.
I'm taking
Bill
the Colts.
Self.
Yeah.
The Patriots lost at home to the Durs. Give me the other team.
Okay.
Always.
All right. So Evan lone wolfing.
Lose to the Durs.
That
They just traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young.
And we all picked that game correctly.
The whole defense was like, they're gone. And they're like, yeah, we lost. And we all saw it coming.
Yeah, we all saw it coming because the Patriots are terrible.
Mac Jones is garbage.
Let's talk Ravens Browns. So the Ravens at home, they're laying 6 points in this game. Obviously, the Browns' offense is terrible. They are 28th in DVOA, but their offense is number 1 in DVOA. So,
Defense.
sorry, yes, their defense is number 1 in DVOA. With that being said, the Ravens are number 2 in defensive DVOA. It's not a particularly wide margin between the two, and the Ravens' offense is actually good. So, if you're asking me who's going to win this straight up, it's definitely the Ravens. My concern here is the fact that it's a divisional game. Division games do sometimes get a little weird, especially in the AFC North. I'm nervously still going to take the Ravens. I'm pretty confident that Evan is going to be taking the Browns in this game. Am I correct?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
This is the one where you express
Yeah.
confidence in your team.
Yeah, we're gonna
This
lose.
is the one?
Yeah, just
I'm going to lose. Come on.
yeah. Something
They
weird's
don't
gonna
have
happen.
to lose to not cover a 6-point spread.
Nelson Aguilar can be on the hands team again. You know.
I think you might have just done it. Eric's going to take the Browns now.
No, I'm not. We've already seen this matchup play out. The Ravens smoked them, and the Ravens weren't even healthy back then.
And they weren't at home.
Yeah, so give me,
Ravens' offensive line is going to be healthy this time
so,
around.
Give me the Ravens. Lamar's playing well. The Ravens' defense is firing on all cylinders. I don't know what the deal is with Deshaun Watson, right? Like, he can't decide 1 week versus the next whether he actually wants to, earn his guaranteed money that he never should have gotten for a ton of reasons. Mm-hmm. And 24 specifically, I could think of.
I thought it was 40.
Maybe it might be. Yeah, I got no time for the Browns against the Ravens. The Ravens look like a wagon right now, which is trouble because the team that's a wagon doesn't usually end up winning the Super Bowl. But we will see what
Ask
happens.
the Ravens.
Yeah, ask the Eagles last year. I told y'all. But yeah, for now, I'm taking the Ravens against the Browns.
Another AFC North team laying 6 points at home. Actually, the Bengals laying 6.5, hosting the Houston Texans this week. Where are you guys on this one?
I like the Texans. I think they're, I'm sensing a shootout in this game. The Bengals probably win. They'll win by, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. But I think it's just going to be up and down the field.
I think the Bengals defense gets kind of forgotten about a little bit.
Probably.
Like, they're pretty good. Like we always think about Joe Burrow and all those receivers and Joe Mixon and like that high flying offense, but their defense gets after the quarterback quite a bit. Mm-hmm. That being said, C.J. Stroud's just been too impressive for me not to take the points here.
I thought the Buccaneers defense was good. They were.
Yeah, that's my point.
They were lucky the kicker was injured. They only gave up 39.
Yeah.
I thought I might be on a lonely island on this one, but apparently I'm not, because I'm also taking the Texans here. I will say that the points is a part of it. Part of it is also that there's some concern that Jamar Chase is going to miss this game because of that hospital pass that Joe Burrow threw him that basically had him landing flat on his back. He did not practice today, and he's questionable for this weekend. There's a lot of concern that he will not be able to suit up for this game.
T. Higgins, my boy.
And yeah, I mean it'll be good things for T. Higgins, good things for Tyler Boyd has been getting some targets lately.
On that trade, and I got T. Higgins.
Yeah, but if Jamar Chase is not in that game, I don't think that necessarily keeps the Bengals from winning the game, but it's definitely going to make it difficult for them to cover 6.5 points.
Yeah.
And even if Chase was to play, maybe that would move the needle to the Bengals for me, but not by much. Like, I'd be like right there on that edge. So we are all on the Texans as far as that 6.5 point spread goes. The 49ers are laying 3 on the road at Jacksonville. That's an interesting matchup considering the 49ers are coming off a bye week, but prior to that, they had lost 3 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the points at home. I'm taking the Jags in this game, and I would take the Jaguars if this was just a straight up.
So you take them on the money line and get a little bit of
Little juice.
candy on the side.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I haven't liked what I've seen. Well, the Jags have been a little disappointing as well. But the Niners were, as soon as I said on the show, the Niners are the best team in the league. They haven't won since. They can't do nothing. So I don't know what the problem is. And, they're traveling west to east, 1 o'clock. It seems kind of like a trap game to me.
How surprised would you be if I said that the 49ers have a positive defensive DVOA?
I wouldn't be
Positive is negative.
Yeah,
Positive is
in
bad
DVOA
for
on
defense.
defense.
I wouldn't be
Yes.
surprised by that because they haven't been that good this year.
Yeah, they're number 15 on defensive DVOA at plus 1.1.
Yeah, they've underwhelmed. That's
Their
for sure.
offensive DVOA is still really good, almost 30, but that's largely held up by those first 5 games. They've been bad offensively recently. The Jaguars are number 3 in defensive DVOA. Like,
really?
as disappointing as their offense has been at times, their running game has been really good. Travis Etienne has been amazing. So even when they don't get the ball moving through the air, they've been doing a pretty good job on the ground. And their defense has been outstanding. So that's why I would pick them to win straight up, and I'm definitely taking the points with them at home.
Yeah, the Jags, like we kind of talked about it early in the season, they were kind of letting us down, but they've, kind of quietly they got a good record, right? Like it's not like they got 2 losses.
Yeah, they're 6-2.
Yeah, so they're doing all right.
You guys were saying stuff about my preseason projection of them. I think I had them only losing like 4 games.
Yeah, I'm at 13-4, and I was making fun of you when they were like 2-2, and I was like,
that might not happen, but it could.
Yeah, you never know. They do play in a weak ass division too,
Yeah.
so they're gonna have some easy
A little bit
ones
less
towards
week
the end of the
with
season.
Houston.
Yeah, and I think they lost to Houston already.
Yeah,
So.
and Indy. Indy's like Indy's a little bit interesting.
Frisky, yeah. The Titan, Will Levis.
Titans can sometimes be a little frisky.
Well, Levis looks pretty good.
Levis had a good game and then he had kind of a bad
He
game.
was all right against.
Needs more mayonnaise in his coffee.
Yeah, never mind.
He allowed a team to beat him with only 1 good drive.
That's what the Steelers do to everybody, though. They put up. Kenny Pickett has 1 drive in him. I got 1 more in me.
Will
That's
Levis
it.
still let it happen to him. Anyway,
All right.
so I'm taking the Jags. Evan's taking the Jags. Eric.
Jags. Yeah, Brock Purdy, the Linsanity run for him is over too. When put him in, as soon as they put him in the MVP conversation, I was like, well, this is going to end poorly. It has.
He lost 1 game and the floodgates opened.
Yeah, and then he lost another. And he
another.
lost to P.J. Walker, and y'all
And
made
might
fun
be
of me
another one.
for picking the Browns to cover it, and then they won the game straight up. So,
Eric, your Saints are laying 2.5 on the road at the Vikings.
I don't know.
Is this a hard one for you?
Like, because of emotional hedging? I don't get that emotionally attached to my team. They either suck or
No,
they don't.
I was more thinking like, is it hard for you to like pick against your team? Because I am solidly on the Vikings in this one.
I mean, that's probably a smart decision, but I am going to. I'm taking the Vikings too. Like, on the road, like Vikings still have a good home field advantage. They got that
The skull thing. I
that
don't
glass
understand.
barn they play in that gets loud in there, and their team is in the mix, right? They're 5-4, so the Saints haven't shown me that they're really worthy of laying points on the road against a above 500 team. Like, I realize that Kirk Cousins isn't there, but Josh Dobbs looked okay at times for the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have nothing for a team. And he goes to Minnesota, he's there for 5 minutes, and he wins a game. I think he's a top 25-ish quarterback in the league. I think he's he's good enough to start in the league. So he's not just some jabroni. He's not Tommy DeVito or whatever gump they got rolling in for Daniel Jones. Once he gets hurt too, they'll find somebody. Or Zach
I thought it was
Wilson.
Tommy DeVito.
But once Tommy DeVito gets hurt, right? And then Zach Wilson or somebody like that, he sucks. Would you take Josh Dobbs over Mac Jones?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. And Mac Jones is starting. Would you take him over Jordan Love?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would
that's
too.
a closer
I'm
one,
out on
but
Jordan
right
Love.
now, I'd probably take Dobbs.
Yeah, I would too. So he's good enough to be there. And, I feel like somebody needs to trade for Jacoby Brissett too. I'm just throwing that in there. But
Well, it's too late now.
Washington won't even play Jacoby Brissett
okay, but that's because they believe in Sam Howell because he's white.
for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's your reason.
There's no reason.
Evan, who are you taking, Saints or Vikings?
I feel like I haven't watched a whole lot of the Saints, but what I have seen from them is a bit of a lack of want to, right? Like, they're not, I don't think they're grinding, as hard.
You know who grinds for the Saints? Your boy, useless Taysom Hill. That dude's a grinder.
Oh, well, he's got to be in the NFL. But like
So what you
Thomas
saying?
had no catches this past week.
Yeah, he's disappeared after like a nice little start.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Alvin Kamara looks good though.
He does.
Yeah.
Vikings, I don't know. I guess because y'all picked them.
Well, thanks.
That's not the exercise. The Steelers
Maybe it
are at
is.
home, laying the standard 3 points against the Packers this week.
Steelers roll. Come on.
Steelers don't roll anybody.
The
The
Packers
Steelers
are garbage.
don't roll anybody, but this is one of the first games that the Steelers have played in a little while where I'm like, the Steelers are solidly better than their opponent. And they're at home and they're only getting the normal home field advantage points. I'm also on the Steelers here. Again, I'm not necessarily saying rolling, but I think the line would have to get up around a touchdown before I would, flip over to the Packers.
Yeah, that Steelers defense, T.J. Watt going up against Jordan Love, who's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we also got to talk a little something about a certain coach up there in Green Bay named Matt LaFleur. That team is poorly coached. They commit a ton of penalties. They don't seem to have it together at all. Like he's looking a little raggedy right now. He's on the "What have you done for me lately" list, and
Not a whole lot.
Eventually, he's going to be moving down to the "I'm over it" list, and hopefully, he doesn't stick around long enough to end up on that other list. So
yeah.
But anyway, I'm taking the Steelers.
All right. Let's see where we are at.
Titans, Bucks.
Yes, Titans,
Oh my God.
Bucks. So, the Buccaneers are laying 1.5 at home against the Titans. Give you guys a second to talk about your guys' thoughts on this one.
Because you're not ready.
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready either. I don't know.
Okay, well, then I'll step up and I'll go for it. I'm gonna roll with the Flying Bakers. So I'm taking the Bucks because I like Baker better than I like Will Levis. Not saying that Will Levis isn't good or that whatever, but I'll take woke up feeling dangerous over I put mayonnaise in my coffee. This is throwing darts at a dartboard as far as I'm concerned. This game is just awful.
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. I got nothing to say about this.
This is probably the most difficult line, at least that we've looked at so far.
I'm taking Tampa Bay. Just whatever. It don't matter.
Corey's gonna have a lone wolf opportunity if he wants it though.
Yeah.
It's there for you.
Yeah. I mean, each of you has one. I could go ahead and take it here.
You're gonna invest a lone wolf pick into the Titans though. Will Levis, mayonnaise in his coffee.
Eats bananas
Yes.
with the peels
Oh,
on.
he's going for it. Okay,
I'm
look
doing
at
it. I'm doing it. I'm taking the lone wolf opportunity.
that. Oh boy, that might be a candidate for regret of the week just because it's Will Levis.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Titans there. I really like Todd Bowles, but I don't think he's that great of a head coach.
No.
I would definitely take the Titans coaching over the Bucks here.
Yes.
I think the Titans have a much better special teams unit, and I think that offensively and defensively, the two teams are pretty comparable. And to me, 1.5 points on this game basically is just a coin flip, because I think the Titans are probably very slightly better than the Bucks on a neutral field. So you put it at home for the Bucks, give the Titans 1.5. I think that's fair. I think that's exactly why the line is where it is. But I think the Titans are better coached. And outside of Rashad White, I think the Titans have have more talent. I think that Mike Evans has been a little so far this year, and Chris Godwin hasn't done a whole lot this year. So Kate Otten is going to have 2 touchdowns the second week in a row?
Your boy. Pick him up, put him in the lineup.
I could. Actually, no, I can't, because Alex Kincaid has him on his bench.
Well, you should get him in a trade. He wants to give you a bunch of scraps.
I'll trade Joe Burrow for Kate Otten.
There we go. Straight up. That's a good
Straight
deal.
up.
Mike Trout for Ryan Flaherty. Who says no?
We'll move on to the 4 o'clock window. The one saving grace this week is that at least we do have 4 games in the 4 o'clock window, so we won't be subjected just to 3 of them.
Oh, okay. But it's these 4 games.
One of them is potentially decent. One of them involves my team.
It sounds like something from Game of Thrones when Robb Stark was going to have to marry one of the Frey girls, and he asked his mom about him, and he's like, well, one of them's, okay. Evan's breaking stuff in here. Knocking over the TV.
Yeah.
The Falcons are laying 1.5 on the road at the Cardinals. An interesting game here, considering Kyler Murray is not on the injury report right now.
Kyler Murray, is he going to play?
He is expected to play.
Oh, boy.
James Conner could be back. He was designated for return from IR this morning, and a couple days ago, their head coach said that he is ready to go. So you could have Kyler Murray and James Conner back in the lineup for the Cardinals this week against a bad Falcons team. They're at home. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you talked yourself into that.
No, I'm not doing that because I don't think Kyler Murray's going to play.
I mean, he tore his ACL like 10 months ago, right? Like I mean, there's only one Adrian Peterson out here, right? Like,
Well, and even Adrian Peterson, when he came back, he tore his ACL in December of the previous year against Washington. Even he, the first month of that season, wasn't Adrian Peterson yet. Like, he built that MVP campaign as the season went on. So I don't understand why they would play him. Like, they have no playoff optimism.
So
They've got their pick, so lose the games.
yeah.
One possible reason, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is a good reason, but one possible reason is that if they are thinking that he may still be their quarterback of the future, you want to see what you have with him and Marquise Brown.
Short guys.
You already saw that last year when they played together. Marquise Brown's not new to the team.
And this
That's
is
just
third.
one of the, that's just
no,
one of the
this is
things I've been
second year
hearing
over there.
some of.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous.
Like I said, I don't know if it's a good reason, but
Falcons big. Come on.
Oh,
I mean, the Cardinals are so bad. The Cardinals are so bad. It doesn't matter which bums that Arthur Smith decides to give the ball to instead of his good players. Like, they're better than the Cardinals too.
Falcons big. So you willing to lay 5.5?
I mean, not in this exercise.
he doesn't have to.
I was about to turn it over to Eric. All right, it's 5.5.
No, it's not 5.5. It's 1.5. So I'm taking the Falcons.
Fair enough. So I get another lone wolf.
Your boy is also very frustrated with Arthur Smith because Bijan Robinson is ruining my fantasy season in my other league. Like both of my teams are 4 and 5, and one is so much better than the other one, and it's really pissing me off. Like, my team in our league at this point has been sold for scraps, and it stinks, and yet somehow I'm winning some games. That one over there, I keep losing by fractions of points because Bijan Robinson has 1.3 points. He got like 4 touches. Like, what's going on here? Like, everybody else is dominating. Oh, there's my first round pick, Bijan Robinson. He's not playing for no reason for an hour and a half into the broadcast. They don't bother to explain why. And then this week he's got 13 total yards. I'm like, what is going on? Colossal bust.
The other 405 game, the Lions laying 3 as the home team at the Chargers. Yes, I said that.
It's true.
I agree. Yeah, I was about to say that too.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions.
I'm also taking the Lions.
Sweep it.
All right.
Not the loins.
Yeah, not the loins.
I'll take my loins, but I don't want anybody else's.
Oh, no.
Show title right there.
We've had some good ones.
All right, so moving to 425, we've got the Giants at the Cowboys. The Cowboys are laying 16.5
It's a whopper, man.
Oh, okay.
against Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants. Bad news this week for the Giants as Daniel Jones was diagnosed with a torn ACL. Not necessarily bad news that he's not going to play, but bad news that he suffered such a horrendous injury.
Well, it's also bad news he's not going to play because Tommy DeVito is way worse than him.
That's true, too.
Which is quite a feat.
It is quite a feat. Is 16.5 points enough to give the Giants for you to take them in this game?
No.
Yeah.
Not even close. They just got walloped by the Raiders.
Yeah.
Who just fired their coach and GM.
Yeah. And their new coach was a former Giants player. Yeah. So, yeah, it's
and he got McDaniels fired because McDaniels is a moron.
Oh, well,
I love that story. That's in shout-outs.
Yeah. I think the Cowboys win this game by
They won the last one by 40.
Yeah. They win this one by 45.
Yeah.
Right? But why is this even on television?
They shouldn't even have a line for this game. It should just be void. You can't.
It should be infinity.
You can't bet it.
I think it should be 70-0 in this game.
Yeah. 222-0.
Cumberland College.
Commanders at Seahawks. The Seahawks laying 6 points at home against the Durs.
That's a lot of points.
Is it enough for you to take the Durs?
Yes.
It is.
Yes, I am on the Manders.
Evan's hopping on the Manders.
Yeah, the Manders and Seahawks history.
Is it back to Manders now?
Yeah, I call them Manders. You just say Durs for some reason.
Well, Steven.
Yeah, Steven started that.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I'm taking them just because 6 points seems like a lot. And then also, I'm fairly confident the Seahawks win this game. But, these two teams just play weird, close games just for some reason.
They do?
I thought they did. Maybe that's just, a stat based on nothing or whatever you said.
That was a brilliant quote by me.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm feeling them.
So let's see.
And
The last handful of games that Washington and Seattle played against each other. 2021, Commanders win 17-15, 2 points. 2020, Commanders lose 15-20, 5 points. 2017, Commanders beat the Seahawks 17-14, 3 points.
That was a weird game, too.
2014, it was a 10-point win for Seattle. 2013, 10-point win for Seattle. 2011, 6-point win for Washington. I'm on the Seahawks for this one. Again, you're right.
You didn't mention the RG3 game.
A lot of those have been
Playoffs.
close.
Yeah.
A lot of those have been close. But I'm taking the Seahawks in this matchup. I think that 6 is pretty much right where it should be, but I don't want to take the Durs if I don't have to, and I don't have to in this one.
So quit asking. Yeah, Gino's worrying me a little bit. I'm worried that Gino's turned into a pumpkin on us. He's been pretty bad. He was bad against the Bengals, cost me that pick because that was ridiculous. If he had played even remotely well in the red zone that game, the Seahawks would have won that game.
I actually might want to switch just to make sure that the Durs lose this game because that's what happens.
We're still doing that? Or we're just going to let it happen?
I don't know.
I feel like we should
I'm not actually going to change it. I already made my pick, but I'm nervous
now.
Corey's a bitter ex at this point. He doesn't want his ex to be happy now that he's left her.
Oh.
So that's what's going on here. But yeah, Gino struggled. The only reason they beat the Browns is because Kevin Stefanski is a list-worthy coach. We watched it on the plane where it's 3rd and 3, and they have P.J. Walker throw the ball instead of just running it for the first down, and he throws it off of Jamal Adams. He doinks it off his helmet, and it pops up into the air, and the Seahawks get an interception around the 40-yard line. The Seahawks hadn't moved the ball in 2 hours, and they just go right down the field and score a touchdown to get the cover, and it was just outrageous. So, but that was the only reason they pulled that off. However, Ron Rivera is also on my list, so I can count on him. And Jack Del Rio, if he was qualified for the list, as in being a head coach, he would be on it too. So coaching staff sucks in DC. Raljon, whatever you want to call it. Seahawks.
Oh.
Go Hawks.
All right. So Evan gets his second Lone Wolf pick of the week.
Pick the Durs.
Mm-hmm.
How's that feel?
No.
He ain't saying anything.
Yeah, unpleasant.
Sunday Night Football.
Oh, God.
Because
what?
we haven't gotten enough of primetime Jets. They come off Monday Night Football and immediately go back to Sunday Night Football.
I thought we could flex these games at this
We
point.
can.
They just haven't done it.
It's allowed.
Yeah, they're not going to.
I don't know why they're not.
Who should be flexed into this game?
It's a pretty rough
So
slate.
we get the Jets against we get a good team that they get to play, right? We at least get one good team in this game. No, we get Antonio Pierce's Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? What is this NFL?
They smoked the Giants last week. That was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody gets talk or what?
I picked the Jets. They have a good defense. I mean, whoever the Raiders quarterback isn't going to be able to move the ball against the Jets defense.
Aiden O'Connell.
O'Connell's looked okay at times, though.
I mean,
I'm taking the Jets too.
Yeah, so am I. But, yeah. Shout out. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Aiden O'Connell's looked okay. That's a fact.
Okay.
Don't get mad at me.
Monday Night
I still
Football.
made the right pick. Come on.
Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos
God.
Mm-hmm.
Enough.
at the Bills. Bills laying 7.5. Is that too much? Not enough. For me, it is definitely not enough. The Bills have been underwhelming, but they are so much better than the Broncos. The Broncos suck. They're so bad.
Broncos are 3-5.
That's
They
not good.
suck.
The Bills are 5-4.
Okay.
Not very good either.
It's better.
Better, but is it 8 points better?
Bills roll.
Bills roll.
Bills win by like 3
The
touchdowns.
Bills struggled to beat the Giants a couple weeks ago.
Bills win by like 3 touchdowns.
They lost to the Patriots.
Bills win by like 2.5 touchdowns.
I knocked you down a little bit with some of my facts. Okay.
I am Broncos country. Let's lay down and die. Bills roll as well.
I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't lone wolf on Russell Wilson. I gotta take the Bills.
Oh, what if he's doing the high knees on the plane from Denver to
I bet he will
Buffalo?
be doing that. That's even more reason not to pick him.
What if he's doing a simulated game during the pregame
Yeah, in the
warm-up?
freezing cold in the pregame
I
warm-up.
told y'all
Yeah.
when he did that, this guy's a phony, and
It's a hot dog.
I was ahead of it. Everybody didn't figure it out until he went to Denver. It's like, this guy's a clown, and I've been on it since like 2019. I'm like, I don't know about this guy. He's a little out there.
I mean, I knew that he was corny as hell. I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily think that was like gonna affect his play,
It
and I
certainly
don't know if
affected
it
his
has
standing
affected the play. I think that he's just washed.
it certainly has affected his play, at least in terms of how his teammates feel about him.
That's true.
Runner pass, yes.
Yeah.
And all that crap.
I'll
and
pass on
having
picking
his
the
own
Broncos.
office, even though he's a player, just
What
what's
is
going on
that?
there?
What?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that was the whole thing last year. Yes, he had his own office.
Yeah, yeah,
Evan has the
Evan
most
is
amazing
speechless.
quizzical look on his face.
Flabbergasted.
yeah.
Yes.
He had his own office. Like, he's not in the locker room. He's got his own
That
little
is
spot.
unacceptable. Who approved that? Was that Nat Hackett PI?
I don't know.
Because as soon as he okayed that move, he should have been fired
Maybe
then.
it was John Elway. I mean, Elway did fire himself and promote himself at
Yes.
the same time.
Yes.
So, he finds a way to make things happen.
Yeah,
but-
tall, rich, white guy. Classic move right there.
So Eric is lone wolfing on the Panthers on Thursday night. Evan is lone wolfing on the Patriots Sunday morning, as well as the Manders
So
Sunday
we're,
afternoon.
so we're lone wolfing on just awful teams.
Yep, I'm lone wolfing on the Titans and the Cardinals. Meanwhile,
Isn't this fun?
the other 9 games we all agree on. So if you were wise and you listened to this before you submitted your ballot this week, you will know that you should be picking the Browns against the Ravens, the Bengals against the Texans, the 49ers against the Jaguars, the Saints against the Vikings, the Packers against the Steelers, the Chargers against the Lions, the Giants against the Cowboys, and the Raiders against the Jets, and the Broncos against the Bills, because We are all in agreement on the other teams in those matchups, and that has not spelled good things for us recently.
We'll say, though, don't pick the Giants.
That's probably not a wise decision. Most of those are probably not wise decisions.
The-
If you would like to join our fan contest for picks, at this point you're not going to catch up in the season-long contest, but you can still earn weekly shout-outs on the show and on our webpage. So you can email us at thesportsballers@gmail.com or DM us on Twitter at sportsballers18 with your email address, and you will receive that ballot weekly. We already sent out this week's ballot, but it is not too late. If you reach out and let us know you'd like to join, we can still send it out to you. That is it as far as our show notes. Any late breaking news? Boj bombs?
I haven't looked at anything, so my phone's on SOS mode for some reason. So even if I wanted to look at stuff,
Rangers hire, or the Angels hire former Rangers manager Ron Washington.
Yeah,
good for him.
Happen. A shout out to Ron Washington. He deserved a World Series. And it dropped in the outfield. Cruz. So sucks for him.
All right.
It does.
Well, then that is going to pretty much do it here for episode 259. Yeah. If you enjoyed this show, if you made it this far, we appreciate you listening. Be sure to, if you're listening live on YouTube, we did not get any YouTube comments today, although we did have a few people tune in at various points in the show. You can hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you know when we go live. Be sure to follow us on all the socials, Twitter/X. We are at SportsBallers18. So we try to put something out a day or two in advance, but always the morning of our shows, we notify our subscribers, our followers, that we are going to be going live that evening with the show. You can also follow us individually. I am at Corey Puffett. Eric is at Quagmire67, and Evan is Evan_Ash13. Sorry, having
We've
trouble
been doing
speaking.
this how long?
Only 5.5 years.
Yeah.
5.25 years.
We were in our 20s back then.
We were in our 20s a couple of years ago, to be fair, too. You can find this podcast in addition to YouTube on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. So whichever one is your preferred podcatcher, you can find us on there. And if you have another preferred podcatcher, let us know. We'll look into branching out and increasing our podcatching repertoire. Any shout-outs this week, gentlemen?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it. Shout out to Antonio Pierce for not only getting his first career win as a head coach, but finding a way to inadvertently get the previous guy fired so he could have the job. So for those who don't know, the story is that after the Raiders lost to, I don't remember who they played the previous week. It was probably the Lions, wasn't it? It was a Monday night game. Yep. They lose to the Lions. They fall to 3-5, and it was evident in front of the entire world watching football that both Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams have absolutely no time for Josh McDaniels. Like, they hate that man and are just done with playing for him. And so Antonio Pierce, as an assistant, steps in and tries to, rile up the team and get them inspired, despite the fact that they're coming off of a pretty bad loss and falling to 3-5. And so he mentions the 2007 New York Giants team that he was on, and talks about how they felt like they were dead in the water for most of the season, but they fought and clawed their way into the postseason, and then went all the way to the Super Bowl.
And they believed that they could be anybody.
Yeah, and then they beat the undefeated 18-0 Patriots to win the Super Bowl. Well, that was pretty inspirational to the players, but a particular head coach was the offensive coordinator of that 2007 New England Patriots team that had the most disappointing Super Bowl loss in the history of losses.
He got a little in his feelings over this, this episode.
He had a sad, and he decided that he was going to complain to Antonio Pierce about how he should never talk about that 2007 season again. And I guess Mark Davis was present for this.
I believe he was.
And he saw that, he was like, wait a second, I want to roll with this guy. So he said, you're gone, fired Josh McDaniels, kicked him to the curb mercifully, has to pay him a boatload of money.
Yeah, this is not a cheap decision on Mark Davis's part.
Yeah, it's why last year I said that Josh McDaniels, he was fireable last year as a one-and-done head coach.
But we also said that he was safe purely because of the financials.
But at this point, it became so clear that the players hated this man so much. And then even on Sunday, they're playing the Giants. The Giants are awful. They've got some guy from The Sopranos playing quarterback for them. But after the game, they're smoking stogies. They're having a good time. It's just like that just goes to show you, man. Like people talk about work environments and things like that.
The vibes, man.
Yeah, like football, it matters more than anywhere, right? Like people think it's a sport. It's not like a normal office or something like that. It's like no, it's even more important when you're going out there and getting into a car wreck every play. You got to be, motivated to do so. If you hate coming to work and hate working for this guy,
you're in a dangerous position.
And you're not going to give it your all. You're going to end up playing way worse. And it was a completely different aura around the Raiders. That doesn't mean they're going to be good, but it just Pierce earned that. Like he has the respect and the attention of his players, which McDaniels did not earn. He did the same crap in Denver when he took over there. He immediately alienated the quarterback and their top receiver. Tim Tebow. And then he did all this, all these machinations to draft Tim Tebow. So there you go. Good riddance.
Did Josh McDaniels coach more games with the Raiders or the Broncos? Because
I think it was the Broncos. But they did do. I
feel like he went 1.5 years with both.
Well, he had
something like that because he had the 6-0 start with the Broncos, but then they wound up missing the playoffs.
They lost to the Ravens.
It started with the Bengals loss on that. What was it, a pick six or something?
I don't remember. All I remember is that McDaniels they beat the Patriots in overtime, and McDaniels did 4 big fist pumps because he was really excited, and then it all went downhill from there. So
no, Sean Moreno fumbled, and that was that.
I have a couple of shout-outs, but Evan, do you have any shout-outs this week?
Shout out to all the people we encountered on our Atlanta trip a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Not all of them. I got guys on my list for being a jerk.
I don't even remember.
That clown who was giving me a hard time about my Metallica shirt.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that actual clown.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah, I was.
There was an actual clown who was giving you a hard time about a Metallica shirt.
It's haunt season, so you got people dressed up like creepy clowns or whatever. And I was wearing my Metallica Ride the Lightning shirt. And as we were getting in line to ride Goliath, he quickly asked me what my favorite Metallica song is, and I'm like, I don't really have a favorite Metallica song. It's not a thing for me. I don't think about this regularly. And I said, I don't know, man. I have to think about it. And I guess he thought that since I didn't have an answer, he called me a poser. Like I don't listen to Metallica. I'm like, dude, I've been listening to Metallica for 20 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like, take a walk. You're dressed like a clown in the amusement park. Like, don't talk to me. So. But everybody else is great.
So shout out to everybody except for that guy.
A special shout out to the security guy who caught those people cutting in line and just blew the whistle in their face until they left. They cut a very short line, by the way.
It was a 10-minute wait.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And they tried to pull there's 4 of them. And they tried to pull. Well, we know that person up there. I'm like, yeah, and drop the quote from Hershey Park.
Yeah. This is a line, ma'am.
Yes, you gotta wait in the line. I don't care if you know some jabroni that's in the that's already up there. That was a 45-minute wait. This is 10 minutes. Just get to the back of the line.
Yeah.
All right. So my shout outs. First, shout out to Chase Lopez. He's a senior here at DeMatha. Since we didn't do the show last week, I didn't get a chance to quickly update everybody on our WCAC championship meet for cross country, but that was on October 28th back at Kenilworth Park, where Eric was last year to see us win the team title. This year we did not win the team title. We did get 3rd place. I was expecting 4th going into the race, honestly, so I was very pleased with that from our varsity team. But
shout out to their coach then.
But Chase Lopez won the race individually, and he is our first individual champion at DeMatha since I won it back in 2009. So big shout out to Chase Lopez. Really happy for him. Great kid. This was his only year running cross country at DeMatha. He was a soccer player previously. Started running track last year, and then made the jump over to cross country primarily to get ready for track. Beginning the season was not expecting him to be this good of a runner. We knew he was going to be a varsity guy, most likely coming in, but he really bought into the training plan, did everything he needed to, and had a fantastic season. So congratulations to him. My other shout out is to my cousin Emily, who got married this past Saturday evening. Really nice ceremony out in Salisbury. Or just not actually in Salisbury. It was a little bit outside of Salisbury, but anyway. No, I did not go to Cookout.
What are you doing?
I mean, you didn't go to Cookout at Corey's wedding either, so.
Well, yeah, because I've been drinking and I was tired, Yeah.
I was drinking heavily and also very tired.
We know because we were there.
No, I mean this past weekend
I mean,
when I was in Salisbury.
I don't mean this past
Yeah,
weekend.
I
mean
know what
for
you
your-
In the world happened that night. Unbelievable.
Yes. Anyway,
Maybe that's why I was tired.
Shout out to Emily
babysitting.
and her husband Wilson. Congratulations to the Coheys.
Any
Cohey.
Okay.
any giggling freshman phenoms on the cross country team this year?
Not giggling, but we
Okay.
actually did have a really strong freshman, a couple of strong freshmen this year, but in particular, Philip Marshall II, whose dad actually ran for Glenarden back in the day before me, but the youth team that I used to run for. But yeah, Philip had a really good season. He won't be running in tomorrow's private school meet because he's playing basketball this winter. And he did not get to run at championships because he was at a wedding out of the country. But even without that, his times were really good. He was running. I think he broke 19. He was like around 18:30ish or so as a freshman, which we haven't had very many freshmen in recent memory running those kinds of times. So I'm really excited to see how he grows within the sport over the next few years. Arvin Mirchandani had a strong season, finished up mid-19s at the end of his season. So that will do it for episode 259 of the Sports Bars podcast. Be sure to join us again next week. Eric will be hosting, and we'll get a little bit of an NBA update a few weeks into the season. We'll talk some more football.
In-season tournament. Maybe we'll have
find
a
out
clue
more about what
that
the
is.
in-season tournament actually is, because honestly, I feel like my question was not fully answered today. Maybe we'll get a better answer next week. And I'm sure we'll have some college games to talk about, particularly Maryland's tournament down in Asheville. Big game for the Lady Terps against South Carolina. So all of that, and I'm sure plenty more.
Maryland, Nebraska. Don't forget about that.
Yes.
I'm
that
just
too.
dying to tune in for that.
Yes, Eric will be locked in on that game so he can break down every single play next week.
I'll break down the tape with Hugh Jackson. I'll let you know.
Live
And we'll
from
find
Lincoln
out.
in the parking
And
lot.
we'll find out if the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets will be bowling.
We might find out if the Terps will be bowling. We've been
might.
waiting for a month to
What
find
if they
that
play
out.
each other in the bowl game? I guess we have to go to that.
Oh yeah, we gotta go to that.
Well, now we've
Wherever
expanded
it is.
it. All of that,
Even if it's in Detroit, we're going to that.
all of that, and probably not a whole lot more next week on the Sports Bars podcast.